OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Very good morning to you. It's 7:30. It's Wednesday morning on OTB AM, brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. We're on air as usual until 10 o'clock. We've got Rotothan Meads, Aisling O'Reilly. Good morning, Aisling.
What an intro,
I know,
Shane.
you got to give it loads.
Yes, absolutely.
And College Corinthians and Cork's Colm Buhig in the corner as well. Morning, Colm.
Morning, Shane. Morning, Aisling.
Good morning.
Morning, viewers.
See, he's not a better intro than Ger.
Oh my God, like chalk and cheese.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
There's like, here's some guy who's worked here for a while. I don't know. Anyway.
What's his name again?
Yeah.
Colm.
Yeah.
You got to give people their
You got to do it.
their dues. You
And
know?
I hope he's watching.
He will be.
I hope Ger's watching now.
No doubt. Very jealous.
Live from his training session.
Exactly. I think there's only one place to start. Immortality was the word used on a lot of the back pages about Messi this morning. And I mean, he ran the show. Any doubts about Messi's ability to run the show for Argentina anymore, I think, are gone. Did you both enjoy the game last night, or was it just one of those, I guess, unexciting semi-finals? Because Croatia didn't put up a battle?
Yeah, I don't think they put up as much of the battle that we thought they would have. You know, they've been brilliant throughout this tournament. I think they've been maybe one of the dark horses. I know we expect a lot from Croatia, but they played well throughout this tournament, and not so much yesterday, I suppose, when it mattered most.
Yeah.
But look, you're coming up against Messi, Magic Messi.
Stop.
Unbelievable. And I think they bided their time, the Argentina team. Like, obviously, we know they were unbeaten. I think it was 39 games before they came into this World Cup. Then they fell against Saudi Arabia in that first game. It was a massive shock to kick off the tournament.
After that game, we were like, there's no way Argentina are going to do anything in this tournament.
Big time. And they've just got better game on game. And I think the biggest thing with them is that I just think that they know that they would do anything for Messi to lift this trophy, and you can feel that from them. Like, I think there's quotes saying that they would die for him to lift this trophy, and I think if you have a player like that and everybody around you knows he's the greatest, and you know, get him on the ball, and that's how they play. Look, last night, geez, he looked like, for that tour goal in particular, it looked like underage setup. Like, it looked like he had so much time, and no, he's 35 years of age at the highest stage at the World Cup. Like,
he can just turn on a sixpence. Like, it's like he stops completely, and then all of a sudden is going really fast again in no time at all. He's like, and his strength as well for a smallish man is quite incredible. Colm, you've been watching back all of Argentina's goals this morning at the World Cup.
I was just saying, just before we went on air, I was like, I need to refresh my memory, because I was thinking, how many goals has Julian Alvarez scored at this World Cup? So he's on 4.
Is he on 4? Yeah.
Messi's on 5, and that's level with Kylian Mbappe. And last night, actually, Messi became the record scorer at World Cups for Argentina, surpassing Gabriel Batistuta. And also, he's level on appearances now with Lothar Matthäus for the most ever World Cup games at 25. So unless something terrible happens between now and Sunday, he'll break that record.
Another record.
And then he also equaled Diego Maradona's 8 assists at a World Cup for Argentina with that already famous assist last night for Alvarez. So remarkable numbers. But like we were saying, looking back on the goals here, because 3 of Messi's 5 goals have been penalties. He also missed a penalty against Poland. Remember when Wojciech Szczesny saved it?
That's right,
It was a brilliant save, one of the best saves of the tournament. And I was saying there to yourselves before we went on, I can't remember at all what Messi's 2 open play goals were like, so I just looked at them here, and the one against Mexico, I realised how tantalising that was. You've already alluded to the fact that Saudi Arabia shocked the world in the first game, and at half time against Mexico was 0-0, and it was a turgid game, and there really was talk of these Argentina going to go here,
and that was their second match.
That was the middle game. So then Messi picked up the ball 25 yards out against Mexico, 0-0, nothing was happening at all, took a touch. Mexico just gave him that half a yard space, and he put a daisy cutter in the bottom right corner, and then Messi's World Cup began, even though he scored against Saudi Arabia in the penalty as well. And then in the next game against Australia, which they also still had to win, he lovely side foot pass finish into the bottom left corner. Remember, he played a 1-2? And I was like, it was beautiful, because you have two different versions of Messi. The one, the bottom right against Mexico, was very similar to the 2011 Champions League final he scored at Wembley against Manchester United, the goal that killed the game past Van der Sar. It was very similar to that against Mexico, but the Australia one was like caressed into the other side. And he's just having a stupendous tournament, isn't he, for a guy who's already got World Cup player of the tournament before, but it didn't really feel justified. But everything's pointing towards a magical Messi moment at the weekend, but I think they have a France-shaped hole to surpass, and I don't think they will. When
you're mentioning those early games, like I barely remember some of the early games, and I watched pretty much all of this World Cup, but it's like some of those early matches are, well, the goals anyway are a blur to me.
Yeah.
Like the Saudi Arabia game everyone remembers, but like the Mexico and Australia games, I'm like, Can't remember watching that.
No, and I don't think Messi was as standout, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Like, he's been biding his time for the big moments.
Better each game, nearly.
Yeah, and it's almost as if this was the plan. Like, going out against Saudi Arabia, he didn't have a good game. They didn't have a good game. They didn't play well. They didn't get the result. And then obviously you've seen as it moved on and on, against Netherlands especially, when it mattered most, you know, he stood up and everybody was like, that's when the magic Messi was back. That's when the Messi that we wanted to see was back. And yeah, it looks like he's just peaking at the right time. So I'm praying that it's on Sunday.
That's a good point, though, because there has been times where he's been really quiet in a tournament, and there was talk, he's not having a great game. And even as recently as last night, like we were saying in the pre-show meeting, discussing what we all thought of the game last night, and I thought for the first half an hour Croatia were better. They lack cutting edge totally, and the manager himself said that afterwards, but I thought they controlled the midfield kind of as expected, and they had a half decent chance just before Argentina's opening goal when Luka Modric's nutmeg now is lost in the annals of history, because right afterwards Argentina scored, but a beautiful nutmeg, passed it out to Perisic, who went for the chip, which was never really on, and it was probably at least a corner, possibly even a penalty with a handball, but it would have been harsh enough, and they go up the other end and score. But when the penalty was awarded and Messi stood over the ball, I was watching on ITV, and Lee Dixon said Messi hasn't had a kick all game yet. So to go from that, for the first half hour of Messi being anonymous, to 60 minutes later, he really is the greatest player of all time.
I saw a stat last night. It was like, I think it said in 5 World Cups Ronaldo has 10 goals and assists, whereas Messi in this tournament alone has 8 goals and assists. Just one tournament.
Says it all.
Like, I wonder, was Ronaldo, do you think he was watching last night?
Oh, absolutely.
And hating every bloody moment of it.
No way he was watching that game.
No
way he was watching that game.
He had to have been. I don't think it's conversation anymore. Like,
no, it's not.
It's not a conversation.
Really?
No.
Because would you say that only because of what's happened literally this season, like in the last 3 months? Like, if I was to ask you the same question in the summertime pre-season, say, would you say it was 50-50?
I would have always said Messi, and that's just my personal view. But I can 100% see the argument for Ronaldo. But no, it's not that he's been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons over the last number of months. It's not that at all. I actually think he's got a little bit of a hard time over the last while.
Ronaldo.
I think at the World Cup especially, like, anything he did, it was, you know, put in headlines, and I was like, he didn't show any of the good things when he was maybe celebrating when they scored, when Portugal scored, and he was on the sideline. He was doing all that too. So,
well, he wants Champions League football. Would you take him at Parkhead?
He's all good. Nah,
you wouldn't take him. Imagine that.
Wouldn't fit into that type of team.
Ronaldo in an old firm. That's something I'd love to see.
Imagine the number of goals he would score in the Premiership. Scottish Premiership. Oh my God.
What do you mean? How?
He would score bundles of goals.
Why?
Careful, Colin.
Because he'd be better than most players.
Oh, Colin. Did you see Juranovic for Croatia?
He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's such a good fullback.
One of the standout of the tournament.
He's brilliant.
Class.
He's brilliant.
Absolutely.
He'd probably struggle, all right, but I do think people would stand off him and give him a lot of respect. I'd say for the first few months he'd help himself, and then after a while they'd be like, he's not that good anymore.
I'm going to allow you another chance to step in and Colin. What are you saying about the Scottish Premiership quality?
I just think Ronaldo would do very well in the Scottish Premiership.
Right. Interesting.
Headline. There you go.
Yeah,
I don't think that's controversial at all. I think he'd do very well there.
Fair. I just want to quickly, we'll come back to Argentina in a second. Just let people know what's coming up between now and 10 o'clock on the show this morning. Plenty is the answer. So we've got Olivia Divilly and Louise Ward, 2 of the members of Kilkerran Clonburn's All-Ireland Senior Club Ladies winning team from last weekend. They of course beat Monaghan's Donaghmoyne in the final, 2 in a row for them as well. Not bad. Kevin Kilbane will join us live on the line from Qatar at about 8:20. We'll have the sports headlines as well. We have Jess Kelly, Christmas gift guide, PS5, Xbox, all the rest, and maybe where you can get them, because they're not easily got at this time of year, as you well know. And Rachel Huijsdens, she's a member of the Irish women's basketball team. She'll be in studio with myself and Ashley a little bit later on, and a really fascinating interview with Stephen Reid, the former Irish international, with Joe last night. So we'll bring you that from around 9:35 or so this morning. 7:39 on this morning's show. Like the angle of Messi's, that goal you mentioned, was it the third goal?
Third goal, yeah.
Like that sideline, it kind of brought up in my head, like, because everyone gives out about camera phones at matches, and even, you know, when Tiger Woods is teeing off at a big major or whatever, everyone's just not living in the moment and everyone's behind the screen of their phone. But when you see something like last night in that angle that we wouldn't have otherwise seen, you're like, well, maybe phones at matches are okay.
Yeah, I think I've often done it. Like, I was thinking back to Kerry Dublin this year, Sean O'Shea's kick.
But you're working probably.
Yeah, but I didn't need to get the footage, Shane. I just knew I wanted this moment. And I think the best thing about that video, I shared it afterwards, it was to get the atmosphere of the crowd, how it went just dead silent, and you just see it curving in, and then everyone just erupts, and it's a pretty good video, like, to have. And a lot of people shared it online, and yeah, it was nice to get another angle of the shot. So I don't really mind it. If you're on your phone the whole time, then you're obviously not seeing the game. But see, last night, those videos that were running around of Messi, like, it was as if you were right there on the touchline with him. Like, I don't mind it.
I feel like we've seen that goal a million times before, haven't we?
No, I agree to a point. I'm very grateful that footage is there for us to see. I think it's great for people who weren't there, like you said. But it doesn't offend me if I'm at a gig or a stadium that someone has their phone out. I'm just like, I'd rather not. I'd rather be there, because
I think a gig is worse, because it's like you're not going to get a great
it doesn't bother
video.
me if people do it, but I'm just thinking, I was like, I'd rather just live in the moment. Like, because I have a big regret. I went to see Spurs and Reading about 15 years ago, and it was 1-0 to Spurs, White Hart Lane, and Robbie Keane scored, but it was a penalty. And I filmed it. So I actually watched a goal live through the phone. And I'm like, never again, like, because why am I here? Why am I doing this? Like, I might as well just watch the highlights online.
Jesus.
So I really tried to live there in the moment since then. But the Messi footage from the fan who was very close to him, it actually goes to show how, when you watch it on television, there's kind of a Hollywood feel to the whole broadcast. But you're reminded when you're actually there, it's so much more like visceral and real when you're right there, because it just looks more intimate, like when you're right there at pitch level and you see it's not really this kind of big production, you know. And actually that makes it better again, I think, because when you're really up close and then you see the legs moving and the brain ticking over, and then he ruins, Gvardiol, who's potentially defender of the tournament. There he is there, like trying to jockey Messi. That's another moment in the game actually he's become famous now with the face mask on, Gvardiol. He's very young, like his early 20s, plays for Leipzig. He's probably going to get a bigger move if he wants off the back of this. And we were talking about 24 hours ago, probably the defender of the tournament, almost certainly to be in team of the tournament. And now that's going to be, what he's famous for is like the guy who Messi ripped apart, even though like he has a huge future himself. And it just goes to show still the brilliance of Messi and how he's one of a kind in that, like, one of the best young defenders around got destroyed by him. And he's 15
looked like
years
he'd so much time on the ball in that video.
Yeah,
it looked like he was just
the time stood still a little.
I think he did, and like Emma was saying beforehand, like the Maradona parallels against England, because Messi picked the ball up in roughly the same area of the pitch, and like Maradona was more direct, and obviously a goal came from it. Whereas I was saying, well, Messi, like, it's like he was toying with him. It was like, do you want to come in and take it now? Do you want to take it now? And then he stops, and I think it's the stopping is the bravest part for me. Like, it's the stopping and going back and actually I'll go again. He just drives
his
you.
vision. Get to know that I know Alvarez is going to be there.
But if you're the defender,
he didn't look up once.
No,
I was
he
watching
doesn't.
him.
Yeah.
He didn't even look up to see was he there. He just knew where he would be.
Yeah.
That must be just from training sessions. I guess he knows where Alvarez is supposed to be.
That was the same with the Netherlands game, wasn't it? With that little slip pass inside. It's like, how? How do you
pure
do that?
instinct, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think he thinks, Gvardiol thinks I'm going to go back now, so I'm just going to drop my shoulder. So he's probably thinking on the defender's behalf. And then if you're the defender in that situation, if you're going up against an attacker, you might think there are probably 2 or 3 things a typical attacker will do in the ball. So you're covering all of them in split-second decision-making. But with Messi, you're probably multiplying that by 5, because he could do anything here. So then you're going to drive yourself to insanity thinking, what am I going to do here to stop Messi?
I'd love to know how long that fan was filming for. Like, he can't have just happened to be filming for that little moment. Like, he must have been filming way before,
right
way after.
Yeah. Well, like so Messi drifts all over the place. So then he saw him coming over, and at that time the momentum was really swinging towards not just Argentina, but Messi was starting to dominate the game.
Yeah.
And there's actually ITV showed it afterwards that Messi's gesturing to the fullback Molina, I think, where he wants the ball. So I'd say that fan picked up and like, Messi's in the mood here, because often Messi looks so disinterested it's actually comical, but now he was in the zone and he knew that he had Croatia on the back foot, like, and they were terrified of him.
Yeah.
I'd say it's been a while now since the opposition has been physically really terrified of him, and he's like, I'm going to take advantage of this. And like, again, kind of with Mbappe, it's like we just don't see as Messi as much as we used to, like not watching a lot of Ligue 1. And the other point as well that they were making afterwards last night, Gary Neville, Roy Keane in studio, was like, with PSG, they're carrying Mbappe and Neymar as well, and you can't carry 3.
Yeah.
You can carry 1. And 10 Argentina players plus the substitutes are doing their level best, as you were saying earlier, to get Messi this World Cup. And even with all that said, I still think if France show up on Sunday and if they beat Morocco tonight, I think they're going to retain it.
There's the song that they were all singing on the pitch at the end, where they're doing all this whole celebration, and I was like, what are they singing? The words are just, I want to be world champion. And like, it's the most basic song ever, but like, I couldn't believe it's been 36 years since Argentina won a World Cup. Like, it feels like the time now, because I don't know, is it Messi's last World Cup? Probably. What age is he? 35?
35, yeah.
You'd imagine so.
Yeah, did you see the scenes in Buenos Aires last night?
Ridiculous.
Insane. Like, oh my God, you can see what it means to them.
Yeah.
And I know we'll probably talk to Kev about it, but I think the Argentina fans there in Qatar, have been standout of all of the countries. So, yeah, it'll mean a lot to them, but you wouldn't write them off. Look what they did against Brazil in the Copa America final, They took a lot of confidence from that, so...
Well, as you said, they were unbeaten for so long before the tournament. They're like, there's a reason for that. Like, Scaloni's obviously a good manager. I remember one time being in the Stretford end of Old Trafford. I might have said this story before, but I think it was the United Villarreal match at Old Trafford when Ronaldo scored the winner, and there was cameras before you went into the turnstiles at that section saying no videoing, no photos. I was like, I have to get a video of something.
Once in a lifetime moment. Yeah, that's what I feel that fan was doing last night.
But I remember taking a video and the guy behind me tapped me on the shoulder, proper Man United ultra, was like, no video.
Is that because you were in with the ultras though?
Yeah.
That happened to me before.
Yeah.
If you're in with the ultras, they're like, no video, because they don't want to be on the camera.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
But I was full on like, it's my mum doesn't know I'm here, so I'm surprising her with a little video. My mum knew I was there. I was just terrified. I was like, come up with some reason.
Let's get out of here alive.
100%. But I think that...
Do you know when a video is worth it at a match?
When?
If you watch it back afterwards.
But you never
If you don't watch it back.
You never do.
If you don't watch it back,
if
it
it's
should
a
never have
once in a
happened.
lifetime thing. If it's a World Cup semi-final and it's Messi.
Or maybe Tiger
You
Woods.
took your phone out.
Depends what he's doing, like.
You 100%.
No, but I'm not going to watch it back. There's no way I'm going to watch it back.
No,
on my
it's actually
phone.
something you would keep forever. One of the greatest.
World Cup final lifting the trophy. I'd film that.
I thought Colin
You
was
can
going
always
to be
watch
so...
that back.
Yeah,
No, because then I'd have that my own footage and my own angle. I'd watch that. That's a moment in history. But I feel like maybe it'd be nice to have it captured, and I'd probably send it on, show it up in the old Instagram stories. Oh, you had that match, that's amazing. Oh, class. And then show it onto the WhatsApp groups. But me personally, like in my downtime, am I watching it back like on the train being like, oh,
No,
that's
in
great
10 years,
footage.
though.
I actually think if your own county's involved, say you said you took the video of Sean O'Shea, so you're a Meath woman. I reckon if it was a Meath kick, like if Monaghan were taking a kick to win an All-Ireland semi-final or final,
I don't think I would have been able to.
Would have even thought of it.
No,
I'd be so
I wouldn't
nervous.
have been able to. Yeah. I suppose, thinking back at that, I had Paddy Andrews right beside me. So I was probably thinking, I wanted to...
Get his reaction.
And James O'Donoghue. So I wanted to get the two of their reaction. Obviously me, or Kerry Dublin. So maybe it was a bit more of that too. But exactly, if that was me, no way would I have been able to get my phone out.
Not a hope.
No. Like my nails.
Go on, Colin.
No, look, are you a big filmer at matches in general and gigs? I just want to finish this off because I need to get a clarification on this from everyone.
Not gigs.
Gigs is just ridiculous. I have been known to film like 5 seconds, just like I was at this gig, but I don't feel good about it. I wake up the next day and I'm like, why did I do that? There's no need for it.
Yeah.
Matches, no, I try not to do it. It depends on the match, like. I think
it's coming for me here.
old man yells at cloud over here, yeah?
Yeah.
No, I just said that I like when the fellow kids film. It's fine.
Yeah,
There's
fair.
no problem. I have no problem with it at all.
You're putting yourself in with the kids as well.
Yeah.
Fair enough. We've got a load of comments coming in on mainly on Messi. Messi is a true artist. Hard to disagree. Nice Irish connection to Alexis McAllister and Buenos Aires hurling club. I mean, at least we have a horse in the race now in the final, so we can go for them. Ty Carroll says on the YouTube comments, and by the way, keep the comments coming in. Isn't it a bit strange that so many people think this one tournament should decide who the best player of all time is? I mean, it probably is recency bias in some ways, but a World Cup is... It's like the ranking points is different when it comes to a World Cup. If he wins the World Cup and has been and continues to be dominant in the final, then I think there's no question. Maradona, like, see, we weren't in the Maradona era. You might have scraped it, Colin, did you? Like, we didn't get to watch Maradona properly in the Napoli Argentina 86 era, so we can't really speak. We can only watch the videos back and give an opinion. But at least we saw Messi live, not live. I still haven't seen him live in person.
In that footage last night.
Oh, well, true, yeah.
Imagine we didn't have it.
I felt like we were there.
I've seen Ronaldo in person twice. He didn't do anything. Didn't do anything either game. I think you need to acknowledge that.
Anonymous, yeah. Let's just stick the boot into Ronaldo one more time.
We have Ronaldo related comments there.
Do we?
Oh.
Yeah.
Right, let me just get to it. There's always Ronaldo related comment. I mean, there has to be every time we are on the show. Ronaldo wouldn't do well in the SPL. Has to be one of the worst takes in the long history of bad takes. He'd probably find it harder in the Championship.
It's a good point.
Oh, Aisling.
ML89.
Shots fired. It's too early for this. 10 to 8. I can't be dealing.
Jeez.
Do you think he'd struggle in the Scottish Premiership?
In the form he's in at the minute, yeah, I don't think he's offering too much. You know, look, you're not denying he's an unbelievable player, but I think at the form at the moment, he's on his way out, and I don't think he would offer as much as, you know, a player that's up and coming. You know, I don't think it'd be a good buy.
Who would he get
Really?
in ahead of in the Celtic
I
team?
think it would be unbelievable. Guaranteed goals. Like, he'd guarantee you goals.
Well, Celtic couldn't afford him, so like this is a hypothetical argument. But
Well,
that's
hold
what
on. Hold on now. Like, where's he going to go? If he wants to stay in the limelight, if he wants to stay in the main European leagues,
Yeah.
his options are not plentiful in supply.
But I don't think a lot of teams will want him, you know, at the moment because of the last few months of like seeing his antics. You know, you're not going to want someone like that coming into your dressing room.
That's true.
And how he
Yeah.
plays. Like Celtic play high intensity, quick, fast. Like that's how Ange plays. He ain't going to slot in there.
Actually, sorry, that's a very good point. He
That
would
is
never
just
work
never.
with that. Ange Ball and Ronaldo do not go hand in hand.
No, absolutely not. I'd say that's his worst nightmare. And
That's true.
being real.
That's okay, but say, for argument's sake, if he was placed in there, I could see Rangers keeping him at bay. Could you see any other sides stopping him scoring?
Like,
St Mirren away is a tough fixture.
yes.
No
Dundee,
offence to any
Hearts,
St
who
Mirren
knows? Yeah, I thought you were going to say that he was going to Rangers there, and I was like, happy enough.
Yeah, either are.
matter.
Either are. No,
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think he couldn't have him. Like, we'd just ruin everything
No.
he's trying to do. But I do think like it wouldn't be the worst option for Ronaldo himself, because I do think he'd help himself domestically. I really do, for at least like 6 months. And I think then he'd stay in Europe as well, and like literally play European football, and that would suit him very nicely.
Yeah.
So if he gets group stage football with Celtic or Rangers, that's 6 games guaranteed. Probably only 6 games, but 6 games. So that's his chance to add to his Champions League haul, which is what he really wants. Like,
Yeah, he wants
you know
Champions
what I
League
mean?
football, so that
I
would
think
work
that
with
would be
Celtic.
wouldn't be the worst option.
Starting the movement here, I think. Ronaldo to the SPL.
No.
And the Sporting Lisbon colours, you know, for Celtic.
Well, true,
You might,
yeah.
you might like that.
Feel
The
it.
No, I
Sporting don't
wouldn't be
want
a
them.
fan.
Yeah. The Sue into the corner of Parkhead, I think that could work. No, it wouldn't work.
The
Terry,
thoughts of it.
yeah, exactly. Terry Kelly says on YouTube, you never saw Maradona. To put it in perspective, Damien Duff said last night, Mbappe is not fit to lace Messi's boots. Messi is not fit to lace Diego's boots. Messi is the best of this generation.
Oh.
I mean,
I don't know.
I find it impossible to argue against it, because I didn't see Maradona week in, week out.
I'd
I
have to
feel
talk
like I
to
need to
someone.
go and watch it back. Like, obviously, we've seen countless amounts of clips and all of that, but I feel like I really need to sit and,
I'd have to talk
before
to
I make
someone
a decision.
who saw all of those players in action
Yeah.
at the time and sit down with them and actually go through a pros and cons list, because I would love to like break it down, but it obviously never will, for the simple reason that football has changed so much since Maradona's time. Like,
So
it's
much.
a different sport nearly.
Yeah.
It's
See, we're-
completely different. Like,
We're being punished here for our relative youth. Like, we should ask one of the old heads like Ger or Nathan or Adrian maybe
Yeah.
on the show.
that's a
who
good
are,
idea.
Who are really old.
Yeah.
And like
they're not going to remember him either, though. That's the
really,
problem.
really old.
They are,
Check it
but
out.
they're ancient. Yeah.
They're old, are they?
They're like ancient, yeah,
Oh.
as Colm says, yeah, very, very old. So we'll ask them and see what they remember from back in the day. They used to walk to school, I think, with no shoes as well. So that's how old they are. Someone says formation laps from a Grand Prix are a good rewatch on a phone. I have to say, I did take. I'm not going to bring up the Spa Grand Prix again.
Oh, yes. You documented
I
the whole
can't.
thing.
There was a couple of laps where I did the formation laps where I did take out I think they're probably taking the piss of me, because that's exactly what I did, film a couple of formation laps, and they were a good rewatch back, because you've got the noise of the Formula 1 car. So I think that is actually a sport where filming a lap or two is okay, because there's so many laps. You're like, you can watch the rest of it with your own eyes.
And you can't go to that every day. You're probably saving up to get to that.
Exactly.
It's a massive moment. And like, I think if it's a once in a lifetime thing that you're not going to do each and every week,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, take it in, as well as maybe getting a little video for yourself that you'll always have.
You can
That's
get
a
away
good
with
sport
it.
to film.
Formula 1.
You don't actually see the justice of it, like on TV, how ridiculously fast
Yeah.
these cars are going by. Because the odd clip you'd see online when a fan films it, it's like,
Yeah.
Oh, so
yeah.
that's
It's
okay
deafening.
then.
oh yeah,
Oh,
that's 100% okay. Formula 1.
there you
Totally.
go, Shane. You got the green light.
100%.
Also,
the pond there, the Formula 1 pond, the green light as well.
tennis up close.
Did you like that?
Professionals. Seeing
Did not read it.
the speed of their ground strokes is frightening.
Can you film tennis?
I watched
I mean, I
them
know you
train.
physically can, but are you allowed to?
I say at the Australian Open there's a training court, and you could go right up close, like literally distance from me to you, like.
Right.
And you could watch them right in the fence next to them.
During a
and
point?
just like, because it's only training, like it's just to build up to the
Oh,
match.
right, sorry, yeah.
And just the pace of their ground strokes. So that was well worth filming because you can watch that back because, again, TV doesn't do it justice.
You're contradicting yourself.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying for football, it's like, for these matches, because they're too far. It's just too far away. It's just too far away. I'm never going to watch it back.
Messi was
ever.
right there for that person.
No, I need to see, the reason like the tennis thing works and the Formula 1 works for me is that like the television equivalent that you're otherwise watching on doesn't do it as much justice as your own footage when you're up close. Whereas football, it's like, I don't think there's much of a difference usually in people's filming.
And what I mean now is a clip. I don't mean you have your phone out the whole game. Like, I hate that. But if it's just a clip because you're seeing the likes of Messi in a World Cup semi-final, then I think that's totally
fair.
fine.
Yeah, I think you're allowed to. I was at the Crucible for a couple of World Snooker Championships. That's just sport there. You just can't film. You're not allowed to film, obviously, in the crowd. So some sports are not made for the filming. Someone says if Maradona is God, then Messi is Jesus. Real Celtic people are Messi lovers. Ronaldo wouldn't even make Celtic's bench, says NTV. Maybe. I don't know about that. Someone says Gary Lineker says Messi is the best and he was on the pitch with Maradona.
Yeah, that is interesting, yeah. I think Gary Lineker did that documentary on Maradona about 15 years ago where he followed him around.
Yeah.
Had a fairly relatively personal relationship with Maradona, so to hear that is great. I think Souness said the same. Graham Souness is big on Messi being better than Maradona and seeing them both in action. But then I've heard, dad and friends of dad like saying, oh no, Maradona was unbelievable. But then you're kind of biased towards your own time, aren't you? Like, so.
Of course.
And it never ends, but like, anyway, look, just seeing them both is great. Like the Maradona footage is, I can't get enough of watching back.
Yeah, the Belgium semi-final in '86. Like there's like a 4-minute video I watched recently of his highlights from that game. It's just scandalous.
The other thing to do is like there's no video package of Maradona being like average or losing the ball a lot. So you're only ever seeing the absolute best of these lads who went before your time. Whereas Messi, we're seeing the good and bad. So we're kind of tailoring it a bit. But like I do have a feeling that Messi's natural ability, I don't think I've seen surpassed ever.
Yeah.
But Maradona, I just think the whole package for me is just kind of Hollywood.
Warm-ups used to be amazing.
That famous warm-up.
Yeah.
I go back to that like 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
When he's
Cheer yourself up.
warming up to the sound of the music in the stadium, like, and that's
Hitting every beat, like.
Yeah, that was
the song again.
Life is life.
Life is life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the UEFA Cup semi-final second leg warm-up.
Was it?
It wasn't like it was a pre-season game.
Jesus.
Is that where he didn't have his boots laced?
Yeah, didn't have his boots laced, and all the rest of the Napoli players are doing their own warm-up, and Maradona's doing his thing.
Jesus.
That's the way of warming up.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah, that's what I mean by Maradona. He just had that kind of X factor. Like he was like a movie star playing football.
Yeah. Nobody could lace Maradona's boots. Maybe that was literal. Literally can't lace his
That's
boots.
what he was trying to.
Yeah,
he was trying to show. That was to illustrate that.
Wayne Rooney was tweeting last night as well. He retweeted a tweet he put out on March 7th, 2012, so 10 years ago. Messi is a joke, for me the best ever, and he retweeted it last night going, nothing has changed.
The Cristiano Ronaldo war continues between Rooney and himself.
Right.
Beef is real.
Beef is real.
What is going on there? Like,
it's sad, isn't it?
It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Like, they seem to get on very well in that 03 to 09 United team, but
I think in the Piers Morgan interview, like the way he called him out was just
pointed.
So wrong. It was silly. It was so silly. You were like, did you just say that?
Yeah. I saw Piers Morgan tweeting last night predicting Croatia would beat Argentina. So we got that right. I mean, it's not hardly a surprise that Piers Morgan would get something wrong for sure. Keep the comments coming in on Messi. The penalty as well. I don't know, were you guys watching on ITV or RT last night, but like the lads in studio for the penalty decision for Argentina, Wright, Keane and Neville were all like, no, that was never a penalty for Argentina, the first one. Like, I don't know what the argument was. The keeper took him out. Peter Walton as well, they went to the ref watch in the studio and Peter Walton was like, well, it was a penalty. Like, he had to at least stop the ball if it was going to not be given as a penalty. But then it came back to Andy McCoist on commentary in the second half and he was like, I completely disagree with the lads in the studio. It was one of those that seemed to divide Twitter, which was bizarre. But
yeah, I definitely have to watch it back, but it looked like he was just taken out. So I think in that situation,
it felt
it's
like
going to be a penalty.
Yeah, 100%.
But the ITV coverage, I've watched most of the World Cup now on the ITV.
Yeah.
And it's been brilliant.
It's good in this.
So refreshing.
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Like, I actually look forward to the half time.
Yeah.
The chat beforehand, like sometimes you might miss it. I'm like, no, I wanna make sure that I can actually see the preview.
Yeah. I miss Clive
brilliant.
Tilsley though. Tilsley's gone home. It's Sam Matterface in instead of him. Sam's grand, but like, he's no Clive.
Yeah.
You love Clive Tilsley. He's your Mount Rushmore of people.
I really do.
That's a good one.
Like, I love John Champion as well. There's a few good commentators at this tournament that I really enjoy.
Clive reminds me of my childhood Champions League. His voice.
Yeah, his voice just means this is a big game.
I love George Hamilton. I grew up with George, but I always associate George with the voice of doom, because it's like Ireland or Manchester United conceding goals. But with Clive, there was always I associate him with the greatest times, because obviously New Camp was his finest moment, but just in general,
just bad memories. Yeah, that's fair.
Remember Jim Beglin used to be so prominent as well. He was great co-cam. I love Jim Beglin's voice.
His voice meant importance as well,
didn't it?
Yeah.
That's Dream Team. But no, I'm with Jim McCoy. Is just a breath of fresh air, isn't he?
100%.
It's like listening to a match with your buddy.
That's what you want.
That's exactly. And he has knowledge, and he's genuinely excited, and he loves the cultural side of everywhere he is too. And he was talking about that. He's brilliant.
We should touch briefly on Glen Kilcoo, which you were at on Sunday afternoon. Jesus, these two teams don't like each other.
No. And
Conor Glass, you were reading between the lines with Conor Glass's interview afterwards, I guess.
Yeah, I almost wish I pushed him a little bit more. He was sort of giving me the eyes of, we'll leave it, yeah. So I was like, okay, right, we'll leave it, Conor. But I almost, looking back, wish I pushed him a bit more. But yeah, no, the tension up in the stands was something I haven't experienced before. Like, I turned to a few people beside me and was like, the tension is unbelievable here. And they're like, oh my God, yeah. And I was trying to think back to like a few games that I've been at that might have been similar. And I was like, I don't think I have been to a game that has been this tense. I think it's because in the athletic grounds, first off, brilliant place for a game.
Yeah.
Like, I've watched some unbelievable matches now at this point.
Cracking
there
atmosphere.
The atmosphere is always brilliant there. I think it's just the way you're almost on the pitch with them. But yeah, you could definitely feel that it meant so much to Glen. Like, the energy they came with, like, they scored 5 points to no reply in the first 10 minutes, and I think it was 14 minutes gone before Kilcoo got on the scoreboard, and that was a goal. Aaron Brannigan, the corner back, and yeah, they were just finding it to get out of their own half. They just couldn't deal with them because they arrived there with a bee in their bonnet from losing last year's Ulster semi-final, and they were ready. You know, Malachy O'Rourke had them ready. You know, tactically.
What a man, by the way, Malachy O'Rourke. Have I said that in the show before?
I know. I seen it on the Monday after, and I was like, you're dead right, Shane. Like, and it's funny because I've worked with Malachy at games. I worked with him at the Ulster final this year, and he's such a lovely man, such a gentleman. I'm
Quiet,
like, what is it? Yeah. What is it when you get in that dressing room? What is it when you're training? Because even interviewing him after the game, like, I'm like, what is this magic that you must have? Because, like, to see what he's done, like, yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, the tension, another level. Off the ball stuff that was going on was outrageous. From on the supporters shouting on to management, like, it just never, you didn't know where to look. I couldn't even follow the ball because there was something happening everywhere.
Constant.
But yeah, brilliant game.
Can Glen go on and do some damage?
They'll be hard to beat. Yeah, I think they will get to the final, and I think Kilmacud, if it's Kilmacud that they meet, I don't want to write anyone off, but if it is Kilmacud, I think it'll be a tough task for them, but I 100% think they can do it.
Yeah, that's
like,
going to be a cracker.
To match their energy, intensity, they have scores, they've runners, they've really good inside forwards who get back and get forward, and are playing with so much confidence.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they could go all the way.
The two semi-finals are brilliant as well. Like, even Mike Cullen will have something to say in that semi-final, I'd imagine, against Glen. But should be two crackers. So 3 minutes past 8 on this Wednesday morning's OTB AM. Tune into the lunchtime wrap today, bringing you all the latest sports news. That's with thanks to Deliveroo. Check out the app for some great matchday meal deals across the World Cup. Deliveroo, food, we get it. Now, staying with GA, we're joined on the line by Olivia Divilly and Louise Ward, fresh from attaining their All-Ireland Senior Club Football Championship with their club, Kilkerran Clonberne. Olivia, Louise, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Have the celebrations calmed down just yet, or are you still a bit raw?
Still a bit raw.
All calmed down, I think, for today anyway. I think it's a bit of a back to reality and go back to work.
Unreal. Like, I guess as well, like, Olivia, you were player of the match, like, same as last year as well, scoring 5 of the 13 points. Louise, you're the captain, scoring 2 points. So you both had a good day personally, but I mean, I might start with you, Olivia. Just to play in Croke Park, it's been a long time coming for this game to be held in Croke Park, but I think it was the right decision, and what an experience for you guys.
Yeah, it was an experience. It's one of the big days in football. I went to the park with the club team and the girls that you've grown up with and your family. It was just something special, amazing to be a part of.
Yeah, 100%. We're just losing your line there slightly. Louise, might go to you. For yourself, lining out in Croke Park specifically, it must have been quite special.
Yeah, it's very special. Like Olivia said there with your club, it's a little bit different. I suppose a few of us were lucky enough when we were playing with the county to be there on three occasions, but to be able to bring your people there from your community and your parish, and they're the ones that are the driving force behind our team and everything that we need. So to be able to bring them to Croke Park, but then to top it off with a win like that, it was just so special.
And Louise, what was it like for maybe some of the younger girls that have never even been there before, walking into that dressing room? Were they in awe, or did you feel that they were all good, they were confident on the day? Because sometimes I think walking into Croke Park, it can overtake you in ways.
Yeah. I know, exactly. That's what I was saying. It's kind of, it's great to get in there, but it is a beast in itself in its own way, because you don't want I suppose the younger girls to be overawed by the occasion. I think that's something we spoke about before, that the game that we were there to play Donaghmine and not to play Croke Park. But I suppose even when we went into the dressing room, you did get that sense of calmness, and the girls were very relaxed. So I kind of knew, when it came to the warm-up, that they were ready to go, and you could see that in their performance as well.
And Olivia, I suppose Donaghmine always prove a fairly big opposition. Yourselves and themselves have a serious history and a lot of county senior championships under your belt in a row, and you have the experience of the Courtneys as well for them. So I guess you weren't taking them lightly heading into the game, I suppose.
No, absolutely not. Last year it was a tough game. We got over the line by 6 points in the end, and unless we knew.
We're just losing Louise's line there slightly. We'll come back to you, Louise, but we'll go over to Olivia, because Olivia, your scoring, it was almost like a carbon copy of last year's final. Player of the match, you get your 5 points.
Louise
as well.
Back now.
She's back as well. Louise, unbelievable. Like I suppose to get that opportunity to do it in front of your own people as well. And I saw you talking about the fact that you were hoping for the fires to be lit as you headed out west. All the more special, and it's probably one of those things, you now have a target in your back because you're so used to winning.
Yeah, and I suppose we were conscious of that after last year. We were delighted to get across the line, and beating Mourne only in January, and you come back 11 months later. But I suppose we've created a lot of history for ourselves this year. We've won 10 county titles in a row, 5 Connachts, and now put 2 All-Irelands back to back, but back to back in the 1 year. So there was massive celebrations, but I think there's just kind of a sense of relief now, because when you do have all those little kind of, I suppose, milestones, victories, that it does put a little bit of extra pressure on you, and it does put that target on your back. But the girls can just enjoy the Christmas now, but we're just so thankful to our supporters. We came home to massive homecomings, and as you know, the weather was just so bad and people still came out on the roads, and we're just really, really thankful for all that support that we have.
And for people that might not know the club, tell us a little bit about it. I know it's quite a family affair. You have your twin sister playing as well, Nicola. Your dad, Willie, is managing the team as well. I know it's the same throughout the team. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I suppose like any rural club, it's the focal point of the community, and there's not really any other sport around. And we're 2 small parishes, Clonberne and Kilkerne, and we're about 4 to 5 kilometres apart. But obviously, it's very much like a family connection. Dad's the manager. You have myself and Nicola. Then you have Michael Divilly, who's one of the selectors, and his 3 daughters, Olivia being one. And then you have Jerry Noon, Linda Noon involved, and their 3 daughters. And you have Martina Dunleavy in the management and her 2 daughters. So it's very much kind of a family affair, and I think that's really what makes the club extra special.
And what do you think has been the difference? There's going to be so many clubs watching what you have done to win back-to-back All-Irelands, 10 county championships in a row, 5 Connacht titles in a row, and obviously you've buckets of talent within the team, but so do a lot of clubs. So what has really been the difference, do you think, for your club to go on and have the success you've had?
Yeah, and I suppose in asking that question, you're probably just looking at the last 2 to 3 years, but I suppose we've experienced a lot of heartbreak as well. We lost 4 to 5 All-Ireland semi-finals before we actually won one. So we've slowly been building over the last 10 years. You could say we're only up senior since 2013. And then I suppose you come back in 2019, you play Mourne in an All-Ireland final, you get beaten there, and then you're learning things from all those defeats, but we're all getting a year older every time we come back as well. But one man I always mention is Johnny Carter. He's not a Kilkerne or Clonberne man, he's from Moycullen. He was involved in it with a few of us at underage with Galway in 2010 when we won our first All-Ireland. And there's just something really special about him, and I suppose from a fitness point of view, he has us in really, really good condition, and you can see that in the way that we play. And it's just a testament to the girls as well, because he really, really does push us hard, but they don't say no to it. They just want to embrace that and just to improve themselves.
Olivia, I know you had said you're someone who's been on the radar of a lot of AFLW clubs as well. I'd imagine when you see what has happened this year and last, you're probably quite glad that you didn't make that decision to go to
no,
Oz.
she's back, Olivia. We still might be having a few difficulties.
We have her on the line?
I can hear you
I can
okay?
hear us. Lovely.
Yeah. I think winning the 2 All-Irelands in 12 months with your club team was so special, and something I'm just going to cherish for the rest of my life, and I'm really glad to be a part of it. And there is nowhere else I'd have rather been on Saturday night than in Croke Park.
And was that ever a really tough decision for you to have made? Like when you're at those AFLW combines, I'm sure it's a tantalising prospect.
Oh, absolutely. And you see what the other girls are achieving out there and how well they're doing. But I think for me to leave the club team is always going to be a very difficult decision.
That dominance, like to have 10 in a row in Galway, 5 in a row in Connacht, as we said, like, is motivation ever an issue, or do you, as at the start of every year, target a new thing? I guess the 3 in a row next year is more than enough reason to come back and go again.
Yeah, but I think as well we look at the small goals and the short-term goals, and we've got a very tough battle in Galway to start with, and I think when you get a taste of victory you don't want to let it go as well, and it's something that we've been part of for a long time now, so we just kind of keep trying to build on performances and then take it one game at a time while working towards the overall goal.
Louise, I think even the performance itself at the weekend was notable for a lot of people. Your pace was clearly too much for Donaghmoyne, and there was no defensive-minded tactics. It was all out attack, which made it for a great game to watch for a neutral, I'm sure.
Yeah, I suppose we're a running team, and I think we're known for that over the last few years now. And I suppose we're blessed in a way because we're getting players in every year, and they're adding to that. But we knew Donaghmoyne were going to be a tough opposition, and maybe from the outset it looked easy, but it definitely wasn't. And they're a very strong opposition, and they flooded back fast. So I suppose when we turned that ball over, we knew we had to catch them on the fast break going forward, and we did. And I know Chloe Miskell said it in her interview, but it's just kind of the best person in the best position took a shot, and I don't think we had too many wides. Our conversion rate was actually probably good enough this time round, where it probably hadn't been in some games before that, when you're getting a few more chances. But we knew that our chances were going to be very, very limited against Donaghmoyne, and we had to take them when those opportunities came. But as I said, it still goes back to the work that we're doing in training, and the work that Johnny Carter is doing with us and all that running. And when you see it out in the field there, and even some scores, you might be practicing a weave in training, and you come to doing a move that you do a weave and ends in a point. It's just great to see all that kind of come to fruition out in the pitch as well.
And for you, Louise, you lifted the cup last year, but it wasn't in Croke Park. So this year, I'm sure for you personally, it must have been extra special to be able to walk the steps of the Hogan stand.
Yeah, I suppose it's not something that I ever thought was going to be, was going to be able to happen with my club or on behalf of my club. And I'm very thankful to the LGFA and the GA for making that possible on this occasion for us. And, I've said over the last few days, when you dream of being in Croke Park, it was always dreaming in a maroon jersey with Galway and following the steps of Annette Clark from her own club, who was the last person to lift the Brendan Martin in Galway in 2004. And this year when it was announced, it was just, there was a little bit of excitement about it, and we're just so thankful. And it's a moment that I'm never going to forget, and it's a moment in history, I suppose, as well, being the first ladies club team to lift that cup in Croke Park. But at the same time, I think that's something that we're going to look back on in years as well, because I don't think it's just all quite hit us yet.
Olivia, Louise mentions Annette Clark, 2004. I'm sure you were all a lot younger watching that match, and she is someone who's an inspiration to everyone in the club, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. She's been a hero to us all since we've been growing up. We were so lucky to get to play alongside Annette for so long. We learned so much from her, both on and off the pitch. She was a great role model, and she was part of last year's All-Ireland. She retired this year, so she was missed in the dressing room. We've been lucky to play alongside her and with her.
Louise, that you mentioned the parish feel in Kilcairn-Clonberne, and for anyone who hasn't driven through it, my own dad's from Dunmore, not too far away, and it is really, it's two parishes combined. So is it a nice natural split between the two, or how does it work?
Yeah, there is. Like, there's 2 villages in each of the 2 parishes. Yeah, there might be a natural split, but like, we're very much one, and we're very much a collective when it comes to the football, and it's great. Like, and I suppose you nearly have, I was even counting there yesterday, like even our starting 15, I'd say it was nearly half and half, Kilkerne and Clonberne, and yeah, as I said earlier, we're only about 4 to 5 kilometres apart, and we're just blessed. Like, we're not a big area, we don't have a big population like other clubs have, but we're very, very close, and a very, very close knit club, with great people there, and we can do all the work on the pitch or on the training field with our management, but we've a great community behind us from the 2 parishes, and they're really the driving force. Like, our committee just couldn't do enough for us, and when we get to this stage, there's so many people just want to help out, and we're just so thankful to have them.
I think that's why it's probably so much more impressive, because you don't come from a massive population within the club, so to be able to go on and do back-to-back All-Irelands, it's just unbelievable. But am I right in saying that maybe the oldest on the team is maybe 26?
No, 30, I'd say.
Okay.
So Lisa Finnegan would be around 30, and Lisa Murphy would be 29, 30, and after that, then we're all 26 down. So.
Still a young team.
Yeah, still a very young team.
Yeah, we are.
That lack of experience, I suppose next year you can't even say you're lacking any experience, because what has happened this year and last will stand to all of you, no doubt.
Exactly, yeah, and like, I know you talk about experience there, but maybe we've only we've been in the last 3 All-Ireland finals with club, but like, for us, we've been in All-Ireland finals at underage, be it with county or schools, and that's not only me and Olivia. There's younger girls that have been experiencing that as well. So the big day doesn't faze them, and they nearly embrace it more so, which is a great thing. And it was no different the last day either.
I suppose the Kilkerne Clonberne club made national headlines with Shane Walsh, a certain Shane Walsh, taking a trip east to play for Kilmacud. Was that something that you were like, oh geez, this is bringing headlines, we don't need to the club, or is it something you kind of understand? I guess players who are living in Dublin need to cut out that travelling.
Yeah, like, I suppose it made a lot of headlines, a lot of people want to talk about it, and it's still a talking point. And there probably was positive and negatives said about Shane, but like, he is the footballer that he is, and even last weekend I was just so delighted to see him do so well in Croke Park, and we were all tuning into that game, and his family were up there. His sister Aisling was involved with us last year, and they're just a huge footballing family as well. But to see him do so well last weekend just really drove us on, or the weekend before, just really drove us on to want to do well this weekend as well. And and he absolutely lorded it in Croke Park, and it just, I suppose, gave us an extra excitement about being there as well.
And I saw the emotion on your manager Willie Ward's face after the game when he's been interviewed. I think it was on TG Carr, and like, clearly meant so much to him, and he's someone who's so close to you all.
Yeah, like, I know as a team, we're really blessed to have Dad as the manager, but for me and Nicola, we're really blessed to have him as our father, and to have him involved, and it's a very much a family connection, and it does make it a little bit extra emotional, because you have the people that you love and you want there, and even closer than just being in the stands, they're actually on the sideline. But for me and Olivia, like, our fathers have been involved with us since we were 6 years of age, and they brought us right up through the ranks, up to senior, and won our first senior title with us, and then went away for a few years and came back in the last 2 and got us across the line. So even last year, getting across the line with Dad as manager and Michael there, just seemed very fitting, because I suppose initially back in 2013 they were the ones that got us across the line in the county final as well.
Yeah, when I asked you what the difference was maybe in clubs, and why you've had this success, this is probably why as well. The family affair, having your dads there since you were underage the whole way up. That's obviously been a massive part of it. And what were the celebrations like as well? Because I know there was bonfires and the whole lot happening when you arrived in on the bus.
Yeah, so we did our celebrations a little bit different this year. And you learned from last year as well. We kind of were on the bus for too long maybe, and the girls were lured to get off by the time we got back to Clonberne. But this year we stayed up in the Croke Park Hotel after the game. And again, it was just lovely, because we got to go across, but it was also about kind of spending that time with our family, and our close friends and the people that are our really true supporters, and our loyal supporters that are there, in the good times and the bad times. And then we headed for home the next day. We got the bus down, stopped in Ballinasloe, and then came into Clonberne, you know, and the roads were so bad, but to see the amount of people that were there, it was just absolutely unbelievable. Fires, fireworks, everything. And then from there we continued on to Kilkerran and finished up there, and just the amount of people that were there, you know, our parish priest was out to see us and everything, and it's just brilliant. You know, and for me to be able to, you know, bring the Dolores Turrell Cup back home and show it to everybody, you know, for in the community, for all the work that they've done, just to be able to kind of pay back in some way to them, it's just so special for us.
Amazing. Louise, Olivia, pleasure to catch up with you, and congratulations again. A huge achievement, and no doubt you'll give the 3 in a row a good whack next year. Thanks a million.
Thanks, girls.
Thanks.
Brilliant stuff there. Kilkerran Clonberne, what an achievement for them against Donaghmoyne at the weekend. 8:20 on this Wednesday morning's OTB AM, brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. After the break, Kevin Kilbane joins us live from Qatar. See you then.
Testing 1 2 1 2 GMAC 1 2. GMAC's morning motivational moment, or something along those lines. There's so many to choose from.
Good morning. Graham McDowell here. GMAC, as you guys like to call me. Some Wednesday motivation for you now. Every day is a bank account, and time is our currency. No one is rich, no one is poor. We've got 24 hours each. Oh, and money doesn't buy happiness. It does buy cold beers though, and I just can't resist them. See you tomorrow.
GMAC's morning motivational moment, or something along those lines. There's so many to choose from.
The Red 78.
It's going to be a bit of a lottery from the scrum point of view. They are incredibly strong.
Nobody knows Munster rugby better.
Look, the stats sometimes can be skewed. You can have lower possession than the opposition and still win the game.
I can't believe you've been positive for 3 weeks in a row. It must have been something that's so out of your mindset.
Available every Wednesday. Don't miss a moment of action. Subscribe to the rugby channel on the OTB Sports app and turn on your notifications now.
Are you a sports fanatic who loves to travel? Then sportspass.ie is for you. Log on for the chance to win the trip of a lifetime in 2023 to a top global sporting event. 8 winners get to choose from 12 incredible prizes, including trips to the Women's World Cup in Australia, the Super Bowl, the Masters and WrestleMania. All prizes include return flights, accommodation and tickets for 2 people from anywhere in the world. That's sportspass.ie. You win, you choose.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Yeah, just after 8:20 on this Wednesday morning's OTB AM, brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Live from Qatar, it's a very good morning to Kevin Kilbane. Morning, Kev.
Good morning, Shane. Hi, Aisling. How are you doing?
Good morning, Kev. How are you?
I'm good. All's well, thank you.
You're living it up over there?
No, hardly, I have to say. But just to be here last night, I wasn't at the game last night, but just to be here, and even if I was in studio last night, I could have been in any studio in the world, but certainly being in Doha and witnessing the scenes afterwards, after that performance last night, it was very special to be here last night, yeah.
You've got the Guinness Extra Stout t-shirt on, I think there. It's probably the closest you've
You're
come
always
to a
looking
pint
at
of
what
stout.
I wear. I actually don't, it is actually the closest I've come to a pint of stout, and I missed the Guinness in the rain, Shane, you know that, but anyway. I'm very light on clothing at the moment, so I'm just grabbing anything I can get in the bag.
Are you ready for home, or how are you feeling at this point?
Oh, I've been ready for home probably since the day I arrived, I have to say that, honest to God. And you know, it sounds awful, you know, yourself, you know, I'm at a World Cup and I've got to treasure it for all it's worth, and I've got to remember what it was like as a 9-year-old kid watching his first World Cup in '86, you know, but no, I do miss home. I do, actually, yeah, I do.
It's you were listening to our argument, Maradona versus Messi. Not to age you or anything, Kev, but you might recall Diego Maradona a little bit more than we would. Is it a comparable argument? Is it a fair argument?
Yeah, I'm not quite in the bracket of Barry and Gilroy. You know, I'm not maybe that old. But I did go to school with no shoes, though. I did actually go to school with no shoes. Yes. I mean, Maradona was probably my first hero as a kid. I always remember, not long before the 1986 World Cup, my dad came home from the pub with an old VHS video recorder. Times were hard in the household, Shane, as you can well imagine, you know. But my dad came home from the pub, whichever way he got it, knocked off VHS video recorder. So during that World Cup in '86, I used to have a VHS taping, and I would just randomly record any game. I was like, you know, I always remember that World Cup, you know, the famous Josimar goals, the Russian team, the French team from that World Cup, Joel Bats in goal, you know, like little names like this. But Maradona was like probably everything to me as a kid. He really was. And I know you've probably, I heard you guys talking before. I think sometimes you watch all the footage around Maradona and everything is just beautiful. You know, the pitches are crap. He's getting hacked down and things like this by every player possible, which of course is all true. And you do maybe forget, and I'm maybe clouded by that as well. You forget about some of the bad stuff. I'm sure he went through and maybe had 5 or 6 bad games on the bounce. But Maradona to me was the ultimate footballer. Was the player who I looked up to, and I always thought this will never be surpassed. And you don't remember the Maradona era. I don't remember the Pele era. I wasn't born during that era when, you know, my grandfather always said that Pele was the best, and my dad was always, George Best was always the greatest footballer. We can't forget the man from our own shores as well in this argument. George Best has to be certainly considered amongst these very best players. But watching Messi and watching what he's doing now and watching how he's done it for such a long time and seeing, just last night, I heard you guys describing it. We can use all the words magic and genius and all this sort of thing, but does it not just make you feel great watching a game of football when you're watching Messi doing what he did in that second half? And he was quiet enough, and he's had quiet enough spells in this World Cup, but the second half was just incredible. It was magic. It was the stuff I watched as a kid, and I genuinely hope there was 8, 9, 10-year-old kids, boys and girls, watching that game last night and just want to be Lionel Messi. They just want to try and emulate what he did on the pitch. And I hope they feel like I felt watching Maradona in '86, because last night was just so special.
Jeez, I felt like getting a tiny violin out there when you started talking about VHS tapes and walking to school with no shoes.
Yeah,
you probably had a TV to watch the moon landings on at least.
I know you're well into that, Shane, yourself, but no, I'm not that old, not quite that old actually. No.
What are your thoughts on fans filming at matches? We were chatting about that earlier. Like, some of the fan footage of Messi's goal last night was particularly memorable, but I guess the people have their opinions on phones out at matches.
Yeah, some people go crazy at it. I probably share the opinion of probably what you guys are saying. Certainly what Colin was saying early on as well. Like, I'm not bothered with it really. I wouldn't necessarily do it myself. The odd time I've been to a gig here and there, and I've whipped out the phone and recorded a few things, but I wouldn't necessarily sit there through a whole gig with my phone out. It would be spur of the moment thing, you know, your favourite song comes on or whatever it would be. And I think last night I went to watch. I went to watch Messi actually in this tournament. I went to the Argentina-Poland game, which wasn't a great game. Messi missed a penalty in the game and things like that as well. But I've played, so many games, and you don't really appreciate the support around. I've actually just seen footage. It was actually sent to me yesterday, just the national anthem during the O2 game against Spain, and I was watching it half crying, because you forget what the fans meant to us. And, you kind of, it's hard to actually get that connection when you're on the pitch sometimes. But watching it, and it's the sort of feeling that I had again when I was a kid, watching the Irish games in Euro 88 and 90, and what the national anthem meant to our supporters, and seeing the lads lined up. And that was always, to me, looking back on my career, was the most special time in an Irish shirt, just standing there for the anthem. And that's the truth. And maybe just going back to the Messi thing. Messi, when Messi gets the ball, every single seat is just vacated. Everyone stands up, every single person, and they start it's a little bounce, and the stadium just starts to rock. It's almost like the stadium's just bouncing away with you as soon as Messi gets the ball, and that's no matter where it is on the pitch. So I can only imagine what it felt like in that stadium last night. People, as you say, whipping out phones and desperate to get a glimpse of him. You get that feeling now that you're actually watching true greatness. And we can talk about any of the players that Cruyff, as I said, Eusebio, Best, Pele, whoever, Maradona, whichever these players are your favourite of all time. But just being in the stadium when Messi was playing that night, and Messi was actually getting better and better. He was fairly quiet in the game, but he was getting better and better, and he's having some great moments in the game. And it was special to be in a stadium with Argentina fans watching Lionel Messi. And I think that's been the case probably throughout this tournament, if you've been an Argentina fan or a neutral fan, if you've gone to watch those games. And I can only imagine what it was like in that stadium last night, watching him and seeing that greatness, as I said. But you're always going to be tempted to take your phone out and take a picture and just see him, because it is greatness, and it's something that's almost untouchable, really.
Yeah, I think that's it. If it's a once in a lifetime thing, like if it's Messi, I'm going to take a video. I'm absolutely going to take a video. When's it's going to happen again? But as you were saying there, Kev, just bringing back memories, I suppose, for you. Like when you're there in the hotel, I think you had said to Joe during the week that Brazil were in the hotel you were staying in. So you're obviously, you were seeing a lot of them and obviously covering a lot of the games. It must bring back a lot of fond memories. Does it bring back, I suppose, wishing that you were still out there, wishing you still had those times, or how do you feel about all of that?
Yeah, it was absolutely the greatest moments, or the greatest probably month of my playing career. Absolutely was, actually, when I played in 2002. I actually just tweeted something last night. I saw a clip montage of Damien Duff against Spain, and it was just like we forget how great, how brilliant a footballer Damien Duff was. And I know that he's well loved now. He's obviously doing great stuff on RTE, and he's straight talking is what draws us all to him. But Duffer was just incredible footballer. He was, and it was a total pleasure for me to play alongside him. So those days in 2002 were absolutely very special. I think since I finished playing, I started to cover the World Cup. I think this is now my third World Cup that I've actually covered or been at. It takes you back to the times of 86, watching Maradona and watching the Irish team in 90. You guys you're too young to remember 90, but 90 had a real effect on me personally. Again, I go back to, watching the team for the national anthem for the first game against England, both at Euro 88 and 90, those two opening games that we had of the tournament. And they changed my life and what I wanted to do and how I saw my future. And again, it was a distant dream. It was absolutely way beyond me at the time. And I think being at this World Cup, Ashton, it just brings back those memories and what it actually means. And people are always going to debate which is the greatest World Cup anyone's ever watched, but probably the greatest World Cup for me probably will be 90. And some of the football that was probably drab at times. And some of the, everyone will always talk about the Ireland-Egypt game being a horrendous game to watch and things like that. Even the Dutch game, at times, they played out a draw because they knew that they were both qualified. But there's just such special memories in my life. And that's what being here at this World Cup probably brings me back to. And I become a little bit nostalgic, really.
There was the Irish Times column you had earlier this month, Kev, from the World Cup, where you were referencing that Argentina-Ireland game at Lansdowne in 2010. I mean, you marked Messi out of it, let's not forget.
I can't, Shane, come on now, I can't talk about that. But if you want me to talk about it, I will, of course.
Of course, yeah. I've brought it up now, so you might as well.
You have to.
I mean, it's great that I can actually say, look, I've played against him, and we have a guy called Julian de Guzman, who's an ex-Canadian international, who's on our panel here when we're doing the games, and he played in Spain. He plays for Deportivo La Coruña, and he played against Messi a handful of times, and it's great to share experience with him. Messi was probably trying in the games that he was playing against him, but it's great for me personally just to say that I was actually on the pitch, and I played against Ronaldo, and I played against some of the greats, Luis Figo, Zidane, Henry, the list is probably endless. Even the great Brazilian Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, when they came to Dublin once. I've been proud to have played against some of the greatest players, certainly from my era and maybe from any era as well. But I think Messi, when I played against him that night, Shane, I think he was probably just in there for a bit of crack. That was it.
Not at all. Don't do yourself out of a proper performance.
But he didn't score. He didn't score, and he was subbed off after about 57 minutes. So I don't want to blow my own trumpet here, Shane.
He's done. Yeah, he was in your pocket, man.
Just when you name out all of those players, like Figo, that is unbelievable to have played against all of them. Yeah.
I think we had a special team, honestly, with that Irish side, and we didn't just play against Figo. We went and really competed against them, and in spells during certain games we outplayed them. Probably the luckiest we ever had, or the luckiest result that we ever got, was probably in the 0-2 qualification. Was it 2001 when Roy Keane scored against Portugal? Because they did outplay us. Portugal in Dublin that day. Figo was playing, Rui Costa, and I still say Rui Costa, probably the greatest individual performance I've ever seen against any Irish side, to be honest with you, the performance he put in against us. And I think Breeny was playing that day, and Breeny said, like, he's the best striker I've ever played against, because Rui Costa was that good. He was that good.
What made him so good, Rui Costa, that day?
And again, you know what, Shane, it's hard to even really remember now. I just remember thinking during the game, God, this guy is unstoppable in the match. You know, every time he got the ball, he'd invariably beat one of our players. He'd be, creating a chance with an unbelievable pass. He was maybe taking shots on from distance and whatever he was doing. I think he created the goal. I think it was Figo actually scored against us that day in Dublin. But I think he created the goal. But it was just, it's hard really. It's one of those you'd have to watch back at the game to really get a feeling for how good Rui Costa was that day. But I just remember coming into the dressing room after the game and the lads all saying, "Oh my God, this guy!" Because all the talk from us, because Figo was in direct competition with Ian Hart and I down the left hand side, and Harty and I had a really good combination together. How we used to work things, and we genuinely didn't fear anyone we were going to be playing against. We just felt like between the two of us, one of us would take them out of the game, and we'd be able to get each other into the game one way or another. And Figo wasn't actually the issue for us that day. I felt that Harty did a great job on Figo, but it was Rui Costa that was just absolutely sensational. And I just remember going into the dressing room and everyone just talking about this. Oh, geez, what a player! What an unbelievable player! And I think through that campaign and maybe around it, we had, obviously we played the Dutch, the well-known Dutch, but they had some brilliant players as well, that Dutch side as well, when we went and took those on. But I think we had a real patch for a few years that we should have achieved more. I think we look back on that side, I think we all maybe accept that we should have achieved more, whatever happened with that side. But it was special times playing against great players, but also having some pretty special players within our side too.
Aisling referenced Brazil having been in your hotel, so I'm sure there were plenty of Brazil fans around, but the Argentinian fans are adding a different level of spice to this whole thing. Brazil are obviously well supported, and Brazil. Aisling was just saying that we actually haven't seen them, Aisling, at all. Any Brazil player, you probably not even seen any member of staff. Our hotel was totally locked off to the Brazilian squad, so it's kind of almost split into two. So we never saw them at all during this World Cup. But the fans themselves, our hotel has been a bit chaotic at times because the fans trying to see Neymar and whoever from that Brazil side. But around Doha, since being here, there's been the only team that I could say in terms of being well supported is Morocco. Morocco fans seem to be everywhere and have been everywhere since the tournament started. But as the tournament's progressed, it's been Argentina fans. Honest to God, yesterday, I have never seen so many Messi shirts in my life, and I'm sure that's a general case when anyone goes to watch an Argentina game. Whether you'll go and watch them in Buenos Aires or wherever around the world, everybody wants to come and see Messi. Of course they do when you go in, when Argentina's in town. But it's ridiculous the amount of Argentina shirts here. They have to be the best supported side here now. We'll probably wait and see till tonight for that Morocco-France game, and we'll probably see Morocco jerseys everywhere. But I think the consistent thing over the last week, maybe 10 days, it's been Argentina everywhere. Like our studios down in Souk Waqif, which is the marketplace down here, and Argentina fans everywhere. They're just going through in thousands, just singing all day. The atmosphere and the colour that they're bringing, it's really special seeing those fans here, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the videos that I saw is definitely Argentina fans, even there and back in Argentina. There's been some unbelievable footage coming out of there as well.
Yeah, and I saw some of that footage, yeah, too. Yeah,
you've mentioned Morocco. So Morocco, France tonight. You tipped actually Morocco in the quarterfinal.
No, last 16. I actually tipped Portugal, Aisling. I thought Portugal would have had too much. No, I tipped them to beat Spain. I fancied them to beat Spain.
Sorry, that's right. Yeah.
And you know what, Ash? It was just because I saw them in the group, and I'd watched them an awful lot coming into the tournament, and because they're in Canada's group, that we had to get. I was probably much more knowledgeable on that group in particular. I'd probably watched Morocco maybe 15, 20 times in a lot of the games that they played, and the Canadians were coming into the group going, look, if we can get anything from Belgium and Croatia, we're going to be okay. And I think we'd all said right from the start, like, when you start to watch them thinking, lads, this team are something serious. They're a special team. They've got great players. I think the standout, as we know, is Hakimi. I know Ziyech was in there, but Ziyech wasn't in for a long time, of course. If you don't forget, he wasn't even in the squad for such a long time. So Hakimi and one or two others that were in that side, and we're looking at them going, Amrabat, even when we're watching games, going, I tell you what, these are going to have a chance of doing something. I didn't think they'd get to a semi-final, I have to say that, but I fancied them. If any team was going to break that Croatia Belgium group and maybe split them, I fancied Morocco to do it. I thought that they had players capable to go and do something, and then they did get out. And then I saw the way that Spain played, and I thought this Moroccan side can actually cope, because they've got a way to soak up the way that Spain play. A lot of Spain's possession was in front of sides. And I thought they've got the real chance here. It was a little bit of an educated guess, but if Spain turn up, Spain beat them. I think we all accept that. But I just thought they've got a chance here. And then when they got to Portugal, I thought, it might be too much for them, because they've still got injuries. They've got one or two that are not actually they're not actually quite right to play the games. Saiss was injured before the game into last game, but ended up playing and didn't feel quite right. That partnership of Saiss and Aguirre, the centre-half partnership, have been brilliant. Amrabat in front of him, Onahi in that midfield as well. And that's a side of Hakimi and Ziyech, who have been brilliant as well. And Nesri up front, I mean, the goal that he scored against Portugal, what a team. They've got a really, really top-class team, all playing in some of the best leagues around Europe, top 5 leagues, top clubs around Europe. So they were never a team to take lightly, I think, coming into the tournament. But I'm probably going to go back to my prediction before the Portugal game, that I think this might be a step too far. I can't see them beating France. Seeing that France-England game and the level that game was played at, I think this might be a step too far. And I think they're a little bit more loose when they don't have the ball than even England were. So I think they'll leave a few gaps for Mbappe, or more gaps for Mbappe. Griezmann, arguably the best player this tournament. Maybe, if I know we're looking at Messi now, of course, we'd have to say Messi, and Mbappe scored some great goals. But even within that French side, Griezmann has matched Mbappe for work rate, for ability, for the ability to create chances and everything like that goes with it. So I just think that France tonight will probably just shade that game. I fancy France to win it, actually.
That Hakimi Mbappe battle at least should be quite interesting, given they're so close.
Yeah. I know, and I think we're all looking forward to that one. I'm looking at a bit of analysis around it tonight to see how Hakimi does against him, because I think we look at Hakimi getting forward, and he's brilliant. He's so powerful, and he gets beyond the opposition like defence backline. Even though that he's in a fullback, he plays high and wide at times, but he's quite disciplined actually when he plays within that role, because he's got to break from deep line positions because of how deep Morocco defend. But he's so good getting forward. But will his mindset tonight be, look, this guy's too good, I have to actually sit in? And we looked at the panic really around even France's first goal that happened with England when they were trying to get back into position. They see Mbappe on the ball, that he attracts three England players to him. Will that be the case tonight, where 3 or 4 Moroccans are attracted to Mbappe? He frees up Griezmann. Dembele's been brilliant. Of course, Giroud's been brilliant as well. I just think that front line for France will be too good outside of that Mbappe Hakimi matchup tonight. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
Yeah, Morocco at this point, they've only conceded 1 goal, so defensively they have been quite solid.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Giroud there. He's a player that just constantly seems to go under the radar. Like, it's a strange one. Obviously you have Mbappe, you have Griezmann, but he constantly just goes under the radar. Maybe he likes it that way.
Yeah, I think he does. Obviously, we know he overtook Henry's goal-scoring record. I think Griezmann overtook his assist record for France as well. So there's not too many Irishmen that are too unhappy about that record going for Henry, are we? We have to say that. I was happy for Giroud. I was really happy for Giroud, because I think he doesn't get a fair crack of the whip at times. I think we look at him in England and we judge him. I think. Honestly, I do think around Premier League football, and I think even within England, there's a real snobbery to other leagues around Europe, and they can almost dismiss every other league, that we have the best league in the world, and we've got to look at every league and on its merits, I suppose you say, not to quote John Giles, the great John Giles himself at times, but we have to look at every league and say, look, they can bring different things, and look what Griezmann did to England in that last game, that we're hell bent on looking at maybe sometimes who's playing England, who like I think we do it because we have a Premier League bias. I think because we've got we've got so much coverage of it in Ireland. But I honestly think that player, when they go abroad, I think when they go into a different league, and you see that he almost inspired AC Milan to Serie A title last season. The goals that he scored as well, big goals for AC Milan outside of what he did actually in the Premier League, because he did actually very, very good things in at times being asked to be the second striker when he was at Arsenal and at Chelsea. And Giroud has been second striker at times. We've looked at it, but I think honestly 6 weeks ago from what I was reading, and I'm looking at that French squad, and it looks like Giroud's not even going to be in that squad. He's probably going to be just phased out of it because of Griezmann, because of Koundé. Sorry, not Griezmann, because of Benzema, and because of who's the guy in Cuckoo? Sorry, from Leipzig. They look like they're going to be the number 9s, and Giroud will be third choice, so he's probably not going to get selected, and they're going to look elsewhere. All of a sudden, those two get injured. He then becomes so relevant to Didier Deschamps, and he can't overlook Giroud. He has to play him, but you can see what it actually means to all those players as well. You can see what he means to those players when he broke the record. And honestly, he's had an amazing career. I think he's probably going to play for another few years yet because of the style of his game hasn't really changed since he was 24. He's never really had the greatest amount of pace, with all due respect to him. And I think he's a player that can actually play on, and we may even see him at the Euros in 18 months' time with France. I think he's just been an incredible maybe ambassador for football. When you look at, we all look at, again, we look at Messi, we look at Mbappe, we look at these great players, yet it takes other players around teams at times to bring the best out of the great players, the truly great players, and I think Giroud is one of those guys.
Finally, Kev, Gareth Southgate, should he stay or should he go? He's referenced the boos at Molyneux earlier in the year, and I guess the other question is, who do you bring in? A lot of calls for an English-only manager. What's your take on it?
I think maybe, it's only 18 months to the Euros. Maybe he deserves a crack at the Euros, but only because in a year's time we'll probably know who's at the Euros. I'm not too sure when the playoffs are actually going to be for the Euros. Will they actually be into 2024? They might be actually early 2024, but we're going to know by and large who's going to be at the Euros in a year's time from now. There's not an awful lot of time for a new coach to come in and prepare that side. It might be the end of his cycle within that side. It's not a lot of time between now and then. So I think he probably should stay on. I think he's probably earned a bit of goodwill. I think he's certainly made that English side more likeable. I think even to us. I can't say I was too disappointed he went out. I have to say that. When they start to get too close to winning it, my heart starts to beat and I get this real knot in my stomach. And that's been ingrained in me since I was maybe watching Maradona in '86 beating England. I got great delight in that. That was maybe when that dread started or set in. Even seeing England play Germany in Italia '90, and it was well set in at that stage that I wanted England to lose. So I think they become more likeable, and I kind of feel sorry for Harry Kane to an extent. I do feel sorry for Harry Kane. So I think Southgate probably does deserve that last chance. I think really because of the lack of time really between now and then when that Euros comes around in 2024.
I don't think myself or Ashley are going to disagree with you on the England take and not wanting them to go all the way, although they are likeable. Kev, great stuff as always. Thanks a million.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Kev.
Enjoy the match tonight, of course. 8:48 AM on this Wednesday morning, OTBAM. Time to say very good morning to John Duggan. Morning, John.
Shane, Ashley, how are we doing?
We're keeping well.
John.
It's all messy this morning, isn't it?
It's a messy wonderland.
We're just all living in his world, it turns out. That's one of the best performances we were saying it earlier, John, like he seems to be getting progressively better each game. It's built up for a big final from the lad.
Well, I'd say that he still has it. He's not the player he was in terms of the pace, but he still has that burst of acceleration at times and the vision, and I would say the leadership and the happiness. And I think having seen him play 4 years ago, he was not a happy camper in that Argentina team because he was carrying the whole team on his shoulders and the whole environment was chaotic. Whereas now, Lionel Scaloni has done a very good job, who's a tactically assured manager, even though he doesn't have much experience. He keeps on making good changes in this World Cup. And Messi's got a lot more talented players around him, like Alvarez obviously is one of them, but also these kind of players like Fernandes, De Paul, Paredes in the midfield that are better players than they would have had a few years ago. And I think winning the Copa in Brazil, in Rio, winning that tournament, was the first Argentinian team to win a Copa since 1993, especially where they won at the Maracanã, has taken a bit of the heat off him, a bit of the weight off the shoulders in terms of the legacy part of it. And now you can see that freedom in his performances and the less weight. And then you can see it even the way he took that penalty last night. Like, that was a penalty taken without any pressure. It was just Messi on autopilot back to the Barcelona days. And you don't know what's going to happen if it is France and how much space he will get. But I did watch him quite a lot on his own last night, and he does just walk around and then look for the space. But he's so good that they can deal with that.
Where is he in the we were kind of having the Messi Maradona argument this morning. You'll not to age you again, John, but remember a little bit of Maradona possibly. Like, is it unfair to compare the two?
I don't think it's unfair, but I don't think there's a necessarily right answer either. And I didn't have the privilege to see Pele, so Pele won 3 World Cups, and from people I've spoken to who are older than me, they would have said that Pele is just as good as anybody who's ever played the game. Maradona was my first World Cup. I was 7 years of age, and I was utterly mesmerised. And I put it on Twitter there, Maradona against Belgium 1986, just that performance for the whole game. Different type of player to Messi. Maradona he ran matches physically everywhere, box to box. He ran games. Messi decides games almost in a different way. Like Messi finishes matches. Maradona ran games. So in the 1986 final, Maradona was marked out of the game by Lothar Matthäus of West Germany for nearly the whole match, but then sends the magic ball through to Bursaga to score the winner. Also, Maradona's time at the top was probably only, we're talking about 10 years. Messi's, over 15 years. So there is a consistency aspect to Messi that Maradona didn't have. Maradona was pretty much done as a player in his early 30s. Pretty much gone after the 1990 World Cup. Obviously, he got involved with the drug scene in Naples, and all that kind of those issues were pretty evident with Maradona. And even the comeback in 1994 was not a real comeback, as it were, because of what happened, given he tested positive for a banned substance. So Maradona's tenure was shorter. He played on worse pitches by far. He was kicked all over the shop. And also, he had that, as I said, he ran things. He went to Naples, a club that had never won the Italian League, and he won 2 Italian leagues, and he won a UEFA Cup. Could Messi have gone to a club that had never won anything and won a title for that club on his own, with players around him of a lesser quality that weren't Iniesta or Xavi? He's just a very, very different type of player. And it's very hard to compare the two. For me, Maradona, because I think if Maradona was playing now with the protection he'd have, with the pitches he'd be playing on, with maybe a better environment, that he wouldn't be so suffocated by fame, because fame seems to be a bit more spread out. Whereas if you watch the Maradona movie, the suffocating nature of fame, by being this utterly global superstar, and this religious figure. He's actually a religious figure in Naples. So that's why I would think that Maradona can do things with the ball I don't think I've ever seen anybody do. Messi can do things in a different way. Like, Messi had that dribbling ability, that acceleration. I think about Messi as well, the goals would be almost, the ball would be in the net before even blinked.
Yeah.
And that's one of the hallmarks, remember, of him at Barcelona. So it's a very hard thing to compare. But I think a lot of people will be looking at Messi's longevity, and whereas I'm looking at Maradona's ability to control and run things and run a whole team through a World Cup. But Messi now at 35, obviously he's not exactly the player he was, but he still had the biggest influence last night in the semi-final. What else can you ask for?
I don't think there's any right answer. It's probably the...
Yeah, but I can tell you one thing. He's a far better player, Messi, and he'll have a far bigger legacy than Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo is a supreme athlete who's a goal scorer.
Different type
of player. I agree,
John.
Yeah.
Messi influenced... Messi influenced how the game is played and the legacy of the game and great teams. Like Ronaldo... it doesn't just come to my mind immediately what Ronaldo did as a Champions League winner, even though he has been one with Real Madrid and Manchester United. Whereas when I think about Messi, I'm just thinking about 2009, 2011 immediately with Barcelona and with that great team. No, Ronaldo. The Ronaldo-Messi debate is not a debate for me. It doesn't exist as a debate, because you're just talking about statistics versus actually what you see with your eyes.
Yeah, it's the excitement in watching the two of them play as well, isn't it? Like we were talking about
And I don't think Ronaldo is a good... like Messi, I know he got a bit heated against the Dutch, and I didn't think he covered himself in glory. But generally, he's been quite a quiet. He's just done his talking on the pitch.
Yeah, he's been humble in it all.
Yeah, there's a humility now. Whether obviously he's got that massive ego. Like you hear the stories of him just saying, "Give me the ball." But there is with Messi, you could see even last night and all the embraces and whatever. He is a team player much more so than Ronaldo. Ronaldo is somebody that has been obsessed with his own brand and his own career to, I think, the detriment of his image.
Where do you sit, John, on the camera phones at matches? We got the perfect angle of...
Well, it wasn't as good as the Tony Kelly.
Fair, yeah.
That was such a good point.
That's the best thing I've seen all year, that camera phone of Tony Kelly in Limerick and Clare, where it was just like, even if I watched it back last night, I was down there that day, the weather, the murky weather, the rain and the hissing and the booing of Tony Kelly, and then it was over like that. I don't mind. I don't mind watching it. I think there's probably rights issues around it, to be honest. So I think people want to be careful about what they do. We
didn't think of this.
Yeah, so I'm always thinking about like in those terms. But so I was delighted to see it because it was such an amazing video. But would I be doing it myself? I'm sure I have done it, but I wouldn't be going
one-off.
I wouldn't be going out of my way to record things. I think memory should be in your mind, not on a. I'm not going to start using bad language here on a camera phone.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair.
Why does everything have to be recorded for posterity so you can put on social media and get some likes? Now, I'm one of these people who does the social media stuff anyway. So, but I don't really like if you're getting something funny like Owen Sheehan. I think he got something at was it the Galway Kerry game or something this year? He got something.
Oh, yeah.
Did he get the Melee or something like that?
Galway Armagh.
Galway Armagh game.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So
how could we forget?
if you get something interesting, if you're at something and, I'm going to capture this. There's a bit of journalism to it.
Yes, 100%. That's what I was doing.
But if you're just getting it for, I'm going to now, I'm at the penalty shootout and behind the goal and I'm going to take the penalty shootout on my phone, I don't really see the...
You can enjoy the penalty shootout if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, also, what happens if you don't capture it correctly, whatever? It's to me, I just think I'm going to these things to remember, not to have it on a phone as a recorded image. Otherwise, why don't I just record off the TV?
Yeah, I agree with you, John. Briefly, what else is happening, John?
France, Morocco tonight. Will there be hassle in the castle in Paris? Because
I love
it. Obviously, there's a tension at the moment between the governments of Morocco and France, and there's a 44-year protectorate that France had in Morocco until it became independent in 1956. Even the coach, was raised in France, the Moroccan coach. So it's been an amazing story. I think it might be a bit too far for them, Morocco, but you just never know. And obviously a lot of profiles been written about Mbappe and Messi. They both have 5 goals now in the tournament in the World Cup. It's Qatar's dream, isn't it, as the backers of PSG, to have a Messi and Mbappe final at 3:00 on Sunday, and it'll be a very interesting final if it does happen that way. But Morocco still, with their 32% possession, a very solid defensive unit and ability to frustrate teams, are there between themselves and France. I just think France is savvy. France have obviously now won a World Cup, and they've been able to find a way to get it done. And I can't really see anything but a France victory this evening.
Called it here. You heard it here first, John.
Great stuff. The Morocco dream is over.
Give them till tonight at least. Come on.
But you've only conceded 1 goal. Anything can happen.
Remains to be seen.
You've been enjoying it anyway.
It's been brilliant. Yeah, absolutely.
Sad when it's all over, and it's over on Sunday. It's going to be.
Well, I mean, the thing about this Winter World Cup, and I know it does disrupt club seasons, but the clubs have their own political and PR agenda around that. So I don't have any issue with the Winter World Cup. It's only once every 4 years. I had no issue with the fact that the time of year is being played. The Qatar thing, obviously, as I said to somebody, I said, like, what price a ticket for the final? And somebody came back with thousands dead, you know.
Yeah.
And that still can't be. It can't be put too much to the back of our minds, given obviously that the sports washing works.
Yeah.
And that, you know, we all want to see Messi win on Sunday.
Of course, it'll be a cracking final either way. John, great stuff.
All right, Aisling and Shane.
Perfect. Approaching 9 a.m. on this Wednesday morning. Just want to bring one of the headlines from the back page of the Times, Aisling. Ten Hag, Sancho not fit, just to the £73 million. And he's over in the Netherlands. He's not with the United team over in Spain on their pre-season or mid-season trip, but he's instead training with a couple of coaches in Netherlands, apparently just not fit.
Why? Did they say what's happening there?
He had a good start to the season, then he started to tail off, and Ten Hag was asked on the pre-season trip, like, is he injured or what's the crack? And he's basically saying, no, he's not injured, he's just not in the shape we want him to be in.
Yeah.
So that's kind of worrying news for United fans, and for Jadon Sancho particularly, because I'm sure he's upset not to be at the World Cup, given he was...
This is probably what it is. It's probably a mind thing.
Yeah, because he was at the Euros and an important part of that England team at the Euros as well.
Like, that's such a blow for players. And, like, this is the pinnacle of the game, so you want to be there. So I'd say it's a mental thing to get over that and, yeah, to get himself right again. Maybe come January time.
Exactly. He'll come back refreshed. Remains to be seen. Now it is time for this. Jess Kelly's... I've got music now. I love it. This is fantastic. Jess Kelly's Christmas gaming gift guide in partnership with Virgin Media. Bring your A game with 99.9% broadband reliability. Good morning, Jess.
Good morning. How are we?
News Talks technology correspondent, of course. This week we are looking at PS5 and Xbox. So what are the differences? What should people be going for?
Well, I think, as we talked about briefly last week, there are gamers who found their ecosystem and they're never going to move from that ecosystem. So if they're a PS gamer, or if there's or PC gamer, or if they're a Switch user, or if they're Xbox or PlayStation, they're never going to move. So this segment is not for you. Keep watching. You can judge me in the comments. There's no issue with that, but this is not for you. This is for everyone else who is either contemplating what console to get for themselves or a loved one, or maybe there are conversations about what console Santa should bring in the house. I know one of your OTB colleagues was on to me yesterday about this very issue, so I thought it was good to kind of talk through the differences, because not only are there PlayStation and Xbox consoles, there's also variations of the PlayStation and the Xbox consoles. So for those who don't know, there's the PS5, so the PlayStation 5, and then the PS5 Digital Edition. Shane, you may remember last week we were talking a little bit about how gaming has changed. So it's not really, just about going to the store and buying a physical copy anymore. You can now download a whole host of games. The Xbox Pass that we mentioned last week, you can kind of download and stream games to a certain extent as well. So they brought out the digital edition to try and bring the cost down. And the key difference between it and the flagship PS5 is that there's no disc drive. I don't know, like, would that matter to you if you didn't have the disc drive? So
is this, you wouldn't have the console itself?
No, you'd have the console, but you wouldn't be putting discs in, you'd just be downloading the games.
This is like the people who like reading books and like reading ebooks. Like, do you want
100%, yeah, that's it.
I 100% would want the physical copy.
Would you?
Yeah, big time. Just to see the cover and the retroness and
what
pass
do you
it on
think,
to my
Ash?
kids.
I'm not a gamer whatsoever, Jess. Now I'm illiterate when it comes to this, so I'm learning a lot here.
Okay, but let's talk about it in the way that I talk about it. So my boyfriend is a big gamer, and I wanted to get the digital editions just because it would mean we would have less games everywhere in the apartment.
Right.
Yes, less clutter.
Less clutter. I'm all about the less clutter. Now, the only thing is, and it's a good thing this is a Virgin Media thing, is that you need good broadband to have the digital games.
Yeah.
You need to have a high-powered connection, because there is nothing worse than getting the digital version of a console and then spending 48 hours trying to download a game on like dial-up speed. It is beyond painful. But in terms of the internal spec, there's not a massive difference between the flagship and the digital edition. I think the digital edition would do the job for the majority of people.
Right.
There will be people like you, Shane, who will want the physical copies of things.
You're talking about clutter, but I mean, you know the way people have bookshelves and they mightn't even touch the books, but it just looks good.
It looks good. I was going to say it actually looks good with the games.
I like the games, the colour.
Maybe like 10, but when you get to like 75 games and you're trying to like hang your laundry out the window because there's no space in the house, that's when you get into problem territory, you know. The other thing to note though as well, the downside to the digital edition, and again I'm a fan of the digital edition, is that, you know, say if you were playing a game, Shane, and you just finished it and we wanted to do like a game swap or whatever, you can't do that with the digital downloads.
That's true.
It's associated with your account.
Yeah.
So that is something to be mindful of. But I mean, it's coming with a hell of a lot of storage. The downside, as I said, is that you're not having the disk drive, which does double up as a Blu-ray player. So if you're still somebody like me in their mid-70s who watches DVDs, it could be beneficial to have that. The other thing that I would say is that they increased the price of the PlayStation not so long ago, which is a pain in the face. So the flagship edition, so the PS5 with the disc drive, went up from $499.99 to $549.99. So that's a significant, like that's a 50 quid jump.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
For the same console, if you manage to get your hands on one. Shane, do you have a PS5?
My brother has a PS5. It's always been a PS house as opposed to Xbox.
Okay, controversial, but okay.
I know that's controversial and there's a lot of rivalry there.
Yeah.
Like the only thing that strikes me with this is, so the digital version is cheaper, but you need to buy storage, a hell of a lot of storage.
Well, no, it comes with a good bit of storage
Right.
on the device built in, but obviously that is capped. So, like, the good thing about the digital games is that you can, it's kind of like having apps on your phone, so you can have the full version or you can offload it so that, like, the template of the game is there, but if you wanted to go in and play it, you'd have to re-download it again. So you can have your cloud-based library and then you can have your on-device library. Again, internet connectivity is super important here. But I do think the digital edition would tick the box for most people. Getting your hands on a PS5 has been one of the biggest, most controversial stories I've covered in my 10 years as a journalist.
Is it still as bad this Christmas as it ever was?
It's not as bad, but it's still bad, right? And people who are wondering why, it's a very good question. I could replay Tech Talk from this time 2 years ago talking about PS5 shortages and a lot of it would still stand. So there were issues with the supply chain from the outset. The demand was unprecedented. This was the first PlayStation console in many, many, many years. The hype was there. They had done a lot of build up to it and they just couldn't fulfill the demand. Then obviously this little thing called COVID happened. There was also the semiconductor shortage, which is something that's not just impacting tech, like it's impacting, you know, consoles, laptops, but also cars. Like these conductors are in everything now. So that delayed the production even more. Interestingly, last week, the head of Sony PlayStation said that they have finally resolved the issues. And while you may think, okay, that's going to help Santa out a lot, he's saying it'll solve the issue by Q1 of 2023. So I've had a look around the Irish retailers this morning and very, very few of them have the PS5 in stock. But there's a Twitter account that's worth following if you are on the hunt or if you want to just give Santa a nudge and maybe give him the heads up on this as well. It's at PS5_Ireland. I'll tweet it out and get the OTB account to retweet it as well. But basically, they repost updates if they hear a store is getting stock. So, you know, if they hear that a GameStop somewhere in Cork is going to get stock, they will push it out. What I would say is, if you get the notification that there is one in stock, or if you happen into a store and stumble upon one, don't be like, oh, I'll come back in an hour, I'll get the rest of the shopping first, because these things will fly out the door. So if you get your hands on one, I would just snap it up as quickly as possible. Just, I forgot to mention actually the price for the digital edition.
Yeah.
So it went up as well from $399.99 to $499.99. So, $449.
So 50 quid rise
50 quid up, but it's still significantly cheaper. It's still 100 quid cheaper than the main edition. So look, the options are there. I think there are gamers who will just want the flagship device because it is all singing, all dancing. I remember the day setting up our PS5 at home and there's like a demo game that comes on it. It's like Astro's World or Astro something. It's this little robot, looks like Wall-E. And the graphics are incredible. The controller, you can see how much they put into the controller in terms of the feedback you get, in terms of the sound that comes from the controller. Like, if you get one, you will absolutely love it. But the key thing is getting your paws on one.
I didn't think I'd feel so strongly about this, but now that you bring it up, I'm like 100% you need the physical games.
Really?
Like, this is, maybe it's the old man in my body.
Sorry, you're 12.
Yeah. I like the swapping aspect because it is expensive to buy them.
With your mates, of course.
Yeah, I do always remember that. I'm not a big gamer, as I said, but I always do remember people swapping.
Yeah.
Because they're pricey.
Yeah.
They're so pricey still. Like, it's not, it can be 90 quid, anywhere from 60 to 90 quid for a title.
That sets you back.
Two versions of the Xbox as well, isn't there?
Yeah, there are. So there's the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X. Now, there are a few more differences between the two consoles, but again, as I said at the top, I would say the majority of gamers would get on just fine with the Series S. So similar enough to the PlayStation lineup, there's the digital-only version, which is the S, and then the X has the 4K Blu-ray player. There's slightly more RAM in the X, so it's slightly more powerful, essentially. You're getting all the bells and whistles in the Series X, and you're making a few compromises along the way with the S. They're subtle enough, though, that I think it would have to be the nerdiest of the nerds that would really notice it. If you are a young gamer, if this is your first console, or if you don't want to spend, half a month's rent on an Xbox, I think the Series S is the way to go. A thing that some gamers do comment on is the resolution and the refresh rate. So the X can go up to 4K at 60 frames per second, and the S is 1440p at 120 frames per second. So that may sound like gobbledygook to most people, right? But if you are a gamer, you'll notice subtle, or you may not, but it's said that you could notice subtle differences in the clarity or maybe a slight lag when you're playing certain titles. I'm a big fan of the Xbox, primarily because anytime I sit down to use any of these consoles, I just play Forza Horizon 4, which is a driving game. I can't drive in real life, but I'm an excellent gaming driver.
That's more important, yeah.
That's literally the only qualification I have in life. But it is great. And again, if you're an Xbox gamer, you will love it. The Xbox Series S is 250 quid and the Xbox Series X is 500 quid.
Right.
So availability is slightly better. I don't want to say they're widely available, but it's definitely slightly better. And we are expecting some big titles to come out for Xbox over the next few months. The other thing to note actually is sort of the backwards compatibility. So say if you were a PS3 or PS4 gamer, and again you had the physical games, you can absolutely play those on your PS5, but if you have the Xbox Series S, which is the digital one, you can't really play your older titles on the new console.
Okay.
So again, it's that digital versus physical debate. For me, I would much rather have the digital editions and compromise slightly on the spec to have a bit of storage space in my house. But I think, look, if you get any of these, you will be delighted with your life.
I'd say your house is so clean when you're talking about storage space and putting things away.
I wish it was, Shane, but no, it's not.
I would say your DMs are absolutely rammed this time of year. That's what I think. All the questions.
A lot of questions. And if you do have any questions, you can get me on Instagram at Jess Kelly NT, and I'll answer as many as humanly possible.
Finally, just those both Xbox versions, you can still get the Netflix and Prime Video and stuff as well.
Yes, all those bits are built in. And also the thing that we mentioned last week, you can watch it on YouTube if you missed it. We talked through the Game Pass. This is one of the best gifts you can get a gamer. And I think if you are treating yourself to an Xbox over Christmas, ignore the Netflix and all that kind of stuff. You can watch that at any time. Get onto the Xbox Game Pass and get those hundreds of titles that you can play. It works with both the digital edition and the physical or the traditional edition with the disc drive. So absolutely get on that.
Brilliant. Jess, great stuff as always. Thanks a million this morning.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Jess Kelly there, News Talk's tech correspondent, approaching 13 minutes past 9 on this Wednesday morning's OTB AM, brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Here's what we've got on OTB Sports Radio for the rest of today. 1 o'clock, the Club Championship show is live with Will and Aisling herself here on hosting duties. OTB Gold, the Irish football special with Given, Quinn, McAteer and Kev. 3 p.m, it's the latest episode of Koi Gig, which is live. 4 p.m, Retro Panel, 2018's Limerick Hurlers. We've got from 6, OTB Gold, Colm Gooch Cooper. And from 7, of course, OTB Live this evening with Joe, Wednesday Night Rugby. Live reaction to the second World Cup semi-final between France and Morocco. And plenty more besides. You can follow OTB across all our social channels and subscribe to the OTB Podcast Network for all the best in the latest sports content. Now, during the ad break, you will hear a clip from the latest episode of the Koi Gig podcast, where our own Kathleen McNamee, Karen Duggan and Emma Byrne discuss the current WSL leaders Chelsea, with opinions split on whether they'll end the season as champions. The Koi Gig pod on OTB Sports in association with Cadbury FC, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland's women's national team. We'll be back in studio afterwards with the Irish basketball star Rachel Huijsdens. See you in a minute.
OTB
AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
The Club Championship show on OTB Sports.
I always used to give Owen Sheehan a good bit of grief for his power rankings. They aren't easy, Will. I have Kilmacud Croke as the number one team in the country.
As a group, as players, we have not done 1 minute of video analysis of any team this year.
Don't miss a moment of the GA Club Championship. Download the OTB Sports app, subscribe to the GA podcast feed and watch the Club Championship show every Wednesday across OTB's social channels.
Like, they could afford to make those changes that they did this weekend easily, whereas you look at the likes of Aston Villa and they've got 4 subs. So again, that's why Chelsea are going to be probably the winners again. I think it will be squad depth.
Do you think they're going to win the league, Carol?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're looking, as you said, they're looking tired and they're looking drained. Champions League.
That's the thing. They're grinding out the wins.
They are, but they aren't. Like Champions League against Real Madrid, they're drawing, they're dropping points in there where they wouldn't have done if you see them with the energy that they had last season. And I do think it's a mental thing, because if you look at them, they can't be tired physically. They're extremely fit athletes, but mentally they look tired. Sam Kerr is not playing the way she would want to be playing, you know, firing from all cylinders. You've got Pernilla Harder out. She's a massive player for them. She's the engine. She's the cog in that engine. So they're not really getting that energy, that fire from anybody at the minute. Erin Cuthbert is one of those players, but she's going to burn out 100% because, I mean, she's playing every game. She's playing every game for Chelsea, every game for Scotland. It's a lot of pressure to put her under. And I just think they're going to come to a point that it's too much. And they do have a very strong squad, but I don't think the players are the same quality. And I think Arsenal they play that nice football, don't they? And that's a massive boost for a player. Even if you're not getting the results you want, even if you're not scoring the goals you want, playing nice football is sometimes like a mental boost for you.
Are you a sports fanatic who loves to travel? Then sportspass.ie is for you. Log on for the chance to win the trip of a lifetime in 2023 to a top global sporting event. 8 winners get to choose from 12 incredible prizes, including trips to the Women's World Cup in Australia, the Super Bowl, the Masters and WrestleMania. All prizes include return flights, accommodation and tickets for 2 people from anywhere in the world. That's sportspass.ie. You win, you choose.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
17 minutes past 9 on this Wednesday morning's OTB AM. Delighted to say we have the Irish basketball star Rachel Huijsdens in studio with us this morning. Morning, Rachel. How are things?
Thanks for having me on the show, Shane.
Surrounded by Meath women here. We've got Ratoath and Dunshaughlin represented. It's good to have 2 in.
Yeah, no, definitely.
The Royals represented. Rachel, you had a big game against the Netherlands recently. I know the result didn't quite go as planned in the Eurobasket qualifiers, 59-56. But I mean, the Dutch are a quality outfit. So signs are positive.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think going into this game we had a good bit of preparation done over the summer, and obviously we played them a full year previously, and at that stage I think there was more than 20 points in the difference between the 2 teams. So for us it was more about just seeing where we come in the year and how much preparation had helped, and so we went in feeling that bit more confident, and I don't think any of us realised just how well we'd start off, and so obviously it nearly makes it that bit more disappointing when it was in our grasp. And obviously we're going to be looking back at video now and seeing where things went wrong and what we still need to improve on, but just in terms of after getting over the disappointment, and obviously it still hurts, but to take the positives out of it too, and to see how much actually we have come on in the year and hopefully take that into the next window. You have the final qualifiers against the Czechs in February. So that'll be we'll be heading to Prague then for that. I think it's the 9th of February. So again, we still have time. We have over Christmas now, we'll probably have another camp or something like that. And like I said, get a bit of video in and different things like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good fun. When did you first break into the Irish senior setup? Well, the senior setup I think was probably in 2021. So it was actually, there was the kind of COVID year, nothing happened in basketball, we didn't have a season. So it was kind of tough for us as well because no one had, any basketball or any practice, and then suddenly we went into this kind of the Europeans for the small countries as a team. So I remember even the first game in that competition, it was my first senior cap, but also it was my first game in over a year. So even just thinking with refs and stuff, I was like, how does this work again?
The rules.
What are the rules? I was like, am I going to be fouled out in the first couple of minutes? But so that was 2021 was my first cap for the senior team, and then since then now obviously there's not as many opportunities as underage because you have those kind of big tournaments that are happen over 2 weeks, whereas this is more spread out. But since then.
And just when you mentioned the underage, so from when you started to now at this present point, have you seen much progression within the game?
I definitely have. Even when you're looking at competitions within Ireland themselves, like National Cup, and even now I feel like I'm not that old, but even when I'm looking at girls that are under 18 now that are coming up, just there's so much more focus on individual skills, whereas previously it was just kind of, obviously it's still a team game, but it was more about the team and who just fought harder and who just wanted it more. That's still obviously a big element, but you can see all these camps are very focused on individual skill sets and the offensive plays and different things like that. So you can really see that coming through, and girls that are 16 and 17. So I definitely think even in the past couple of years there's been a huge improvement.
And with coverage then as well, you're seeing that the games are live in TG Qatar, so I suppose that all helps the profile of the game.
Oh, 100%. It's great that TG Qatar cover them, and then with National Cup they cover that too, and now that they have the Basketball Ireland TV, it just means that people who might necessarily be able to travel to games, especially if it is across the country, they can still watch, and you're just watching games that you might even have thought about looking at or you wouldn't travel to go see. And even myself, I've had people in Dunshaughlin just say, oh, I saw you on TV, and they might never have watched a basketball game before, or even if it's in college, they'll be like, oh, we'll stick on TG Qatar. So it really is a great thing. The more people that see it, hopefully the more people that get involved, and hopefully that'll keep spreading and it'll just get bigger.
It's funny, we were chatting to Kevin Kilbane on the show earlier, and he was talking about being at the 2002 World Cup and almost getting emotional yesterday watching back videos of the national anthem and that sort of thing. Do you ever get used to that feeling of pulling on the green jersey?
I think I don't think you ever get used to it, no. And I do think, you were saying, you do get emotional. I remember even after, because you put so much work into it, and I think when we were underage especially, your whole summer would just be spent with the team. So every single minute of every day you'd have camp. And I remember obviously then there's little things that you associate then with different tournaments and stuff like that, like songs or different memories. And I remember I was just sitting in the car and the songs started playing that I just associate with that kind of time. It's nearly tearing up kind of just because obviously they're just such a big part of your life. So I don't think it ever does when you're standing there and the national anthem's playing, and especially even with the Dutch, there's a full arena and everyone's singing along. It's just a really special moment, and I don't think you ever really get used to that.
I can imagine. And we've had conversations on the show over the last number of weeks about PE in Ireland and how maybe we need to improve in terms of the amount of hours for starters that PE is given, especially to young girls. What was that experience like for you? Was PE how you first came into basketball, or how did it come about?
So in primary school we had a camp. Kelvin Troy came to do a camp, and I think we were just talking about that there. We think it might have just been on a Friday for a couple of weeks in a row, and that was kind of when I was first properly introduced to the game, and how amazing it could be, and just the passion that he has for the sport, and that's kind of what got me involved into it. And then one of my friends' dads, he would have been quite big in basketball when he was younger, and thinking about going to America, obviously that was different back then, obviously even a bigger commitment with communication and travelling and stuff. So that's kind of how then I got involved, and then I just joined the local team. But definitely PE, I think there could still be a lot of work done in keeping people involved and participating, especially when you get to secondary school level. I'd say about not even 20% of the girls actually were involved in PE when we had PE. Everyone was sitting out, so I'm not sure how you tackle that, or how you try and get people more interested, but it's definitely up for discussion.
We were.
Kevin Troy, it will help.
Yeah, well, this is it. Yeah, we were talking before we come on, just because I would go to a primary school that was close, I suppose, to Dunshaughlin, and Calvin Troy came into our school as well. And like I always remember for like the 4 weeks that he was there, like the passion that he brought. Like none of us had ever played basketball. We were very much GA, like hurling, camogie, football. That was it. No one played soccer. No one played rugby. And I just remember we were allowed to get, you know, courts put out into the yard, and we were all obsessed. And I'll never forget him. Like I always remember that passion as a coach, what he was like and the influence he had on all of us. And that was just for 1 month, you know, it wasn't like I had him for a few years. So when I had seen that's how you started out, it's, you know, it's incredible. And he's in his own right such a good player as well. And obviously coming from the US, and we didn't really have that, I suppose, that influence in Ireland as much.
Yeah, and I think like you're saying there as well, like when you do see those people who are so passionate and so skilled in their sport, like that's definitely something, you know, like I was over in America over the summer and I went to a Chicago Sky game, like in the WNBA, and like I was just absolutely in awe of these players. And obviously I've seen them on TV and like follow them on Instagram, but seeing them in person there, I was like, I wish I had seen this when I was like 14, 15, because I got home and I was like, I just want to get practicing now. So I definitely think like getting people like that more involved and making them just like more available to younger kids to be able to talk to or to see, and just, you know, really can spark, like ignite the spark and kind of get you passionate about something. So it's a huge thing.
I think even Kieran Donaghy said that on the show different times, where like he's encouraging people to get into games in Tralee and watch the experience, and you know, the lights and the show and the whole everything. Like if people only went in and watched the matches, they would be left inspired. Like
yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like even like I was saying, when we had Europeans in Dublin, and the crowd was just amazing, and even people would still say now like that was one of the best experiences, even just as a spectator, because it was just, you just felt like part of it, even if you didn't have anyone like from family playing or something like that. It just makes it this whole event, and like it's something really memorable. So I think definitely the more people that come and get involved and properly get involved, you know, just the better they'll get.
And you mentioned joining your local team when you were growing up, and there wasn't that many local teams. Has that changed nowadays in Ireland?
I'm not 100% sure. I know still kind of, we would have been the only team in Meath for a long while. I think there was then one started up in Navan, but even then, like the North East League, we'd have to travel to Monaghan, to Longford, like to Cavan to play games. And obviously like that was, you'd enjoy that on the weekend. Your Sunday you'd go off and stop in McDonald's on the way home. But like, you know, it would be even better if, you know, there was even school, like I know there are school leagues now starting with secondary schools, but even as early as primary school, get people involved, because with Gaelic and different things like that and hurling, people start off in the academies and they're, you know, 4 or 5, 6 with tiny little hurls, like playing. The same could be said for basketball. So I think just obviously, even like basketball team, you only need, you know, not that many players. So, you know, if you can just start it up and get people involved, definitely you'll start to grow.
And you can learn a lot as well, because a lot of the coaches that go from basketball, you know, go into GA, same sort of skill set. A lot of coaches say that, you know, GA coaches say that if you play basketball, you're a shoe-in, you know.
Yeah, no, it definitely, I think no matter what sport you play, it obviously they all overlap in terms of like hand-eye coordination. I know myself from playing Gaelic, like I think from playing basketball, because it's so like the court's so small and everyone's so close together, you really do get comfortable being under pressure with the ball. So like obviously Gaelic, you've got the whole pitch. Now obviously it's that bit more physical because it's contact sport. People are like push you and hit you and stuff like that, but you do get that bit more comfortable on the ball, and maybe you can see that overlapping. And I know that's why sometimes you can see inter-county teams come and do basketball training, just probably for those reasons. The same way in the other direction as well with Gaelic and going back to or hurling. Sorry, I keep mentioning Gaelic, but yeah, it all kind of interlinks and helps out.
You were one of these really annoying all-rounders when you were younger, like badminton. Was it badminton, Irish dancing, Gaelic, basketball, just good at everything basically?
I know. I think for me it was more, I started off with Gaelic, and I think I just kind of got the bug. Like I liked running, I was competitive, and I think once you've got a couple of those things, like it really does happen. So yeah, I just loved all the sports really and just stayed involved.
Was it tough to then focus on one and pick basketball? I'm sure that's not an easy decision. You have to choose at some point, I guess.
Yeah, I think first of all you forget, like I'd love to be able to play them all, and like you don't have enough days in the week, but also just when you're 15 you're able to do that. You'd play, you know, for under 14s, and then you'd have an under 16 game, you know, you'd be able to do all that in one day, whereas now you need time to recover. And then just with everything else, like it was tough. And I don't know, I think it was really probably because of the Irish team, that basketball, just those experiences that it gave me, that's kind of what gave it the foot up, the leg up. But Yeah, it was tough when I tried to stay at the Gaelic, and like I kind of come in and out in the summer maybe and like make a couple of trainings, make a couple of games, but got to the stage. I remember one time I came back and played a match, and like I nearly tore about my hamstrings. Like I was crying coming off. We won the game, but I was just like in bits, and I couldn't walk for like a month afterwards.
Not worth it.
Just I was like, first of all, I felt terrible not being able to fully commit to something when you really want to. But then second of all, I was like, actually for my own physical health, like this is not doable, and I'm just going to hurt myself even more. So at that stage, then I think that was after in like 2017. I was like, look, unless I'm able to commit fully, I can't just be coming back and forth. So I had to make the decision.
Yeah, that's tough. Am I right in saying you're a medical student in Trinity as well?
Yeah.
Where do you find the hours in the day?
Yeah, I know. No, I think definitely it's a fine balance, and you definitely have to be a bit selfish. I think when I was in first and second year, I felt like, you know, I had to do everything for everyone. I couldn't say no. Whereas I think the older you get, the bit more like, I have to do this for me. So like if something doesn't work, I just have to say no and say like, either I can't make this training or I have exams coming up, and like if that means that maybe I won't get started or I get less minutes, so be it. Like that, just you kind of have to balance it out, and just to be able to do everything really, and to keep it up for as long as possible too. So I don't.
And at one point, you did have offers from the US.
I think like that after the Europeans, I had never even really considered it or even thought about it before. And then after that Europeans in Dublin, and we did quite well, obviously probably the coaches and stuff are looking at those games, and because we were in then the final, that's like the high profile game. So yeah, I had a couple of people reach out and did a couple of interviews, but like I said, because it's nothing I'd really considered and thought about, it's not something you just decide off the bat without properly thinking of, because it's a huge commitment, and over there it's a whole other story. Like your life is basketball, and then like that as well with, I wanted to do medicine, and you can't do that over there. You have to do pre-med, and it's like this whole other thing. So I kind of just had to weigh up what my priorities were, and I think just ultimately the 4-year commitment and just how much of your life goes into it. And then also with what I wanted to do, it just didn't really work out or fit in. So sometimes you think, oh, I wonder what it would have been like. But look, that's in the past now. But some of the girls are gone over now, some younger girls. It's great to just watch them and keep up to date with how they're doing.
Absolutely.
I suppose when you get into work as well, it's probably similar to Jack McCaffrey's story with the Dubs, where he's, you know, working in medicine, obviously getting the time to play Gaelic and train as well. So you probably have to balance the two somehow. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, no, definitely not, and I don't know how he's doing that either. I think it's like a full-time job, but no, like that. And it also is, you have to have people around you that are understanding as well, and like understand that it's not because you don't want to be committed, or like that you don't want to be there all the time. It's just like it's not feasible and it's not possible to be able to keep everything up. So I think once you have those people around you and people understand that and accept that, and obviously once you just communicate that well, you just don't not show up or different things like that, then you know it's fine, and hopefully like usually there's no issues, and you just try and keep it balanced. Yeah.
You're saying your dad is Dutch?
Yeah.
So, like, tell us the story about how your parents met. This is the most romantic story I've heard since The Notebook, maybe.
Oh, really? I've not heard this.
Yeah, no, they. So my mom went with one of her really close friends. I think it was Christmas time too. I'm going to say the Canary Islands.
Of course, it was Christmas, just to add to that.
Yeah, I know. The Canary Islands. I can't remember which one it was. And then my dad went with one of his best friends to the Canary Islands on holidays. Now I'd say they were maybe like 21, 22, I'm not 100% sure. And they just like met in a bar, and then obviously like mom went home, dad went home, and like back then I'm not saying they're really old, but obviously things weren't the same as they are now. So like write letters, or like they'd have to set times to like ring each other at the phone box.
Yeah,
and like someone else could have been at the phone box, so you can't just send a text to say like, you know,
hold on,
I'm here. And the funny thing is actually the two people that they both went with, they're actually married now as well, but they live over in Holland, so they're like the reverse of my family. But like mom moved over to Holland first initially. She lived there for 8 years, so she did her stint. But yeah, no, they came back to Ireland then afterwards. So
amazing.
No, it's funny.
That's class.
Yeah.
You'd have spoken a bit of Dutch then growing up, no doubt.
Yeah, no, I would have. Like, my brother's 2 years older, so he was born there, I was born there, and we moved over back here, when I was like 4 months old. So like I've lived here all my life. But obviously all my dad's family's there. We would have gone for weeks in the summer, like every second Christmas, midterm breaks. So yeah, like we just learned from speaking it. Like, I don't ask me to write anything down or to read anything out. And obviously it gets rusty. I haven't been there in a good while now because of COVID and stuff as well. I just couldn't travel. So hopefully it'd come back to me. But yeah, no, I can get by. I could live there, like, and get by. But amazing. So it's nice to have that kind of
absolutely. Yeah. They must be very proud as well to see you playing for Ireland.
Oh no, definitely. And I think it was just hilarious as well, like out of all the teams that we could have been drawn with that are in the competition, it's like, of course it's going to be the Dutch team. You know, like that's the chances. But at least we got a trip over there. Like when my parents went over there, they could visit everyone, and all like my Dutch family could come to the games too. So that was kind of nice, you know, at the end of the day. But it's great. Yeah.
Hopefully you get a trip to the Canary Islands out of it at some point as well.
Just
the roots.
Go back to the bar.
Back to the bar, and the phone booth as well, of course. Amazing. Will you get a chance to kind of unwind over Christmas and relax a bit, or is it all focus on February?
No, I think there'll be time. We have, like I was saying, for just our clubs, we have the National Cup, which is kind of the start of January, so the semi-final. So obviously we'll be focused on that, but we definitely do have, like, I think a week off or so, just kind of to ourselves, no training. I know we should probably be doing stuff ourselves, but it's good to take time off. I'm going over to Edinburgh myself, actually, for a couple of days. I've heard lots about the Christmas markets.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so I have to do something. I needed something to look forward to as well, like to keep me going. So I'm just doing that and just take a bit of a break, but then back at it again, because obviously that's the thing with the National Cup semis, straight after Christmas or straight after New Year's, you know, you want to have fun, but you also want to be focused because it's a big game. So so I'll take a break, but then hopefully get that
you need the rest, you need a few days
exactly.
Rachel, great to have you in. Listen,
thank you.
Best of luck in the game in February, and hopefully enjoy the Christmas as well.
Thank you very much, Amy.
Good
You
stuff.
too.
Rachel Huijsdens, their Irish women's basketball star. OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. We're back tomorrow morning, where we will know the lineup for the 2022 World Cup final. France and Morocco, of course, at 7 p.m. this evening. The 42.8's Gavin Cooney will join us live from Qatar. We'll chat with Glenn's winning manager, Malachy O'Rourke. The second instalment of Around the World with myself will drop, plus much more besides. Right now, though, we're leaving you with a really insightful chat from last night's show with the former Irish international Stephen Reid, who spoke about why he's turning away from the game to start a brand new career. May your day be filled with warmth in these cold climes. That's a line from Colm. Sorry, I butchered a column. Apologies. It was a good attempt, though. It was okay. We'll chat to you tomorrow. Good luck.
If we take anxiety, which you mentioned there, so there is a spectrum of anxiety, and many of us will feel what I would, without any medical qualification, but what I would call an appropriate level of apprehension about certain events. It is a human experience. We get nervous, we carry on, we push through it. And the spectrum goes right the way, all the way through to panic attacks and people finding it pretty much impossible to function. So give us a sense of your experience of that spectrum, and you know, there's day to day and there's probably your more extreme days as well, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it varies. Even coming on the show now, even coming on to do the Zoom call now, there is a level which is quite normal. You get that level of anxiety when you're preparing to, you know, to speak or to perform or whatever it is. You still get that level of feeling, and I sort of always go that it always sort of hits me there, that feeling in the stomach, and then the butterflies and the nerves. You know, don't make a mistake. Don't say anything that will make yourself look foolish. All these little voices that enter your head, and it's the same for so many people, isn't it? I think for me, when it got out of hand, it would manifest itself in panic attacks, which I've had. I mentioned before in a couple of the pieces that I've done, that I've had a couple on the pitch in a Premier League game, but you sort of become such a master of masking it and controlling it and going again, and all of the things that was drilled into us coming through as players to just pick yourself up and put your chest out and go again. I think footballers in particular, the environments that I've been in and know about, it is that mask that comes on and you almost flick a switch. I think despite everything that's going on around you, how you're feeling, I've always managed to be able to flick a switch into work mode, whether that be a Premier League game, international game. When I became a coach, I used to sometimes, when I was struggling a little bit, it might be before I was delivering a meeting to the group, to the whole squad, get that feeling again, building. But I think sometimes it's the ones that can perform under pressure and flick that switch and deliver. They're the ones that at times can find a way of pushing through it. But it got to the stage with myself that it was just becoming too big a cost in my daily sort of anxiety levels of not really enjoying it, of constantly putting pressure on myself to perform as a player or deliver the best session as a coach. You know, everything had to, which it doesn't, but in my mind, everything had to be perfect in everything I did. So that daily thinking and feeling of that, it was just becoming too big a cost. And on top of that, as you know, 4 out of the last 7 years, I've been living away from home as well. And that's never easy, living away from home 6 nights a week.
Yeah. There's so much in that answer.
Yeah, so sometimes just go off on one there.
No.
So,
like, let's not brush by having a panic attack as a Premier League player on a pitch. How does that happen? I mean, how can you even continue?
It was... I remember my first experiences of it were... I was really young, actually. My first experience would have been secondary school age. So I did speak about it, not in great detail. I did, from quite a young age, get some counselling, not around sort of the panic kind of disorder and the anxiety, but just around sort of some of the other thoughts and feelings that was going on. So kind of by the time I would have the experience in a Premier League game, which I did, which wasn't often, it was a handful of times, but I kind of developed coping mechanisms to dealing with it, which was, you know, not to fight it, to kind of let it breathe, let it burn out itself, because the more I used to fight against it, the worse it would get, you know, the more you panic. So I'd been there before. I knew it wasn't going to kill me.
So by the time you were a Premier League footballer experiencing it on the pitch, you weren't ambushed by it. It was almost a degree of, oh, here's my old friend. You had a set of tools almost to handle it.
Absolutely that. You know, when I was younger, I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Sure. Well, that's what people, I mean, a bit like the name on the tin, the panic sets in and people don't quite know what's going on initially anyway.
It does, and you feel, I did certainly, I felt like I was the only one on the planet experiencing those feelings. So I never really spoke about that in detail until actually I spoke about it in the summer when I left Forest. You know, and the more I spoke to people, the more people that have reached out, that have experienced similar issues in whatever line of work they're in is incredible. But it almost became like you just exactly like described there, the old friend that, you know, rears his ugly head, but one that I've dealt with many times before, you know, just look after my breathing patterns, accept that it's here for a period of time and that it will pass. Obviously, don't pass me the ball in that period because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. But as stupid as it sounds, it might be that period in a game where I would just, you know, position myself on the pitch for a couple of minutes, involved in the game, but knowing that I just had to get through that little period of time and, you know, I'd be back, so to speak, back in the room.
And like what, pray Damien Duff doesn't get the ball and run at you in those couple of minutes as well. I mean, it's surreal.
It'd be easier without the ball because you could just clatter into someone and take a yellow card. It was when we had the ball, that's when I did find an issue. But I'd often find as well, it could be a night game. I think sometimes with the build-up of a night game, you know, the minute you wake up, you always knew it was a match day. The day of a game, when I woke up, I knew it was a match day with the way my body was reacting.
Yeah.
So you got that for the whole day, all afternoon, thinking about your performance, getting ready for the game, you know, thinking about the week you just had, thinking of everything. So by the time the evening kickoff comes, under the floodlights, wherever it might be, I think that used to have an effect on me as well. I always used to prefer the early kickoffs, almost up, have your pre-match meal, head to the stadium, games underway and done, rather than the whole, I've always been like that. Even in a similar way to when I took the Nottingham Forest team after Chris Hughton left, I was caretaker manager for one game, and it was almost like the ideal, not the ideal in terms of what happened and the situation, but I was asked to take it. I said yes, and basically got cracking the next morning and took the game at the weekend. If you said to me, right, you're going to manage a game in 2 or 3 months. Not yet, but you've got a whole length of time to build up to it.
Yes.
That's when things kind of, I've learned a little bit about myself.
Yeah.
That's when things sometimes I can just overthink, overanalyze, put a load of scenarios in my head. Whereas sometimes when it's just, right, get cracking, off you go, I find that a little bit easier.
Yes. You mentioned there even in your teenage years there was therapy. So by all means, let's walk back from a line if I'm in danger of going over a line you don't want to cross. Were you just predisposed to having these thinking patterns and these issues, or was there something in your childhood or away from the pitch in your younger years that you were also trying to cope with?
No, that's sometimes the bit where I kind of try and search out, because I'm on the counselling courses and been through it myself. You're sort of always thinking about, moments in my life or, traumatic events, but I had such a great childhood,
right.
Great loving family, loads of support, older brother that, him and his mates used to, kick me all over the place when we used to play football. But, genuinely, no, I can't think of anything behind it, albeit just being a bit of a worrier, a bit of an anxious
but no point of trauma where you can say, well, this was where I took a turn left.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, which can be the case, it runs in the family a little bit.
Sure.
We're probably all, me, my brother, my mum perhaps, got a worrying tendency. So maybe there's, a genetic element to it that sort of runs through the family. But yeah, so from quite an early age would be a bit of a worrier.
Yeah.
Have sort of levels of anxiety, which just then, I think when you've got that as well, and then you kind of enter the world of elite sport or high pressure environments or challenging jobs or anything like that, if you're already predisposed to that anyway, I think that just magnifies the issue. It just pours petrol on the issue, and without support, it's going to be really challenging to deal with those things going forward and to control. To control your emotions.
Yes. Well, I think that's right. And for any younger listeners, and God, we are getting old when we have to start saying that. But 20 years ago, you burst on the scene for Ireland. And, I can still vividly remember that shot you whizzed over the bar, and there was the physicality and a brilliant shot and brilliant technique. And you look like somebody just born to do it, and some of your goals that you scored for Blackburn were goal of the season contenders, and you absolutely looked like you belonged and you looked like you were thriving. So it's interesting. People might not everyone might remember that, but that was the sense certainly from afar. But you what you say there is so true. So somebody with your natural tendencies to have both the fortune and the misfortune to turn a professional sports person, you are thrust into like the ultimate weird scenario of a dressing room of professional sport, where you're being assessed constantly by teammates, by coaches, by fans, by media. You are fighting for a contract, often with people you're friendly with or not friendly with, or are we friends or we're just teammates, and all of this stuff. If your mind was maybe predisposed to looking for things to worry about, it did not have to go very far in life as a footballer.
Absolutely. It's a daily judgment. It's a daily battle against your teammates, perhaps against your friend that potentially is in the same position as you. It's a battle to get in the team on Saturday. It's a battle to win your next contract. And then as you get older and you get your family commitments and got want a child or two and married or whatever it might be,
well, then that contract's very serious.
Yeah, it is, especially as you can imagine my sort of last 6-7 years, where it was almost year to year contracts as well, with how my knees were at that time, with the numerous surgeries, with the contracts becoming almost pay as you play, not a standard playing contract. I had to earn my money by getting on the pitch with a knee that was probably 50% for 4 or 5 years. So at the end of every season, for probably the last 5 of my playing career, it was a discussion. It was, I'm ready to call it a day. But then it was just one more. And it's been a little bit the same in the coaching journey.
Yeah.
Some of the courses that I'm doing now are courses that I've wanted to explore for some time, but then it's phone rings, one more again, one more. But I had to make the decision this time I want to do this for me now. I'm fed up of, perhaps doing it for the expectation of others, because everyone thinks that you're living the dream in football, and you get these feelings of guilt, perhaps when you tell someone that you're struggling, because the perception is that everyone in football is living the dream, is earning a fortune, is got the house, got the car, it's got the holidays.
Yeah.
So that's why I think some players and some performers, elite, high earners, I think find a real difficulty in sharing that because of a lot of the backlash now. You see it so many times on social media. If somebody comes out and says they're struggling, or high-paid footballer comes out and has an issue, you sometimes see, not that I do it often, but there's been one or two that I've kind of read the threads underneath, and I know a lot of that's, could be anything, but it's harsh. It's a harsh world out there when, you're feeling that way for those that feel that they can't share that.
So would you have classed yourself as depressed in your playing career, or does that not feel like the right
I was never diagnosed, but I've read it a lot. I've read it so many times. Obviously, a lot of the books that I've read around mental health and the issues and depression, oh my God, it would be, if you went through the bullet points of what depression is, there's no doubt that I had many moments of that. When you're in tears and you're on your own in a hotel room, or you're crying with some of your family, that you've got to call it a day because you can't continue. I think some of the lows that I've suffered, without a diagnosis, I'd have to say, without question, there was a lot of moments in my career that I would have been going through depression for sure.
Incredibly high functioning though at the same time.
Yeah, and again, that's another couple of interesting pieces that I've read lately. It effectively is high functioning anxiety and depression. Somehow find a way of getting through it, of flicking the switch, of just performing under pressure. But in my opinion, that's got a shelf life.
Yeah, Stephen, you must have been very drained doing that.
Yeah, well, as you know, I stepped away from Crystal Palace in 2018, I think that would have been. And obviously at the time, it was a big shock, big surprise. But I think that was just a culmination of 22 odd years of doing exactly what we just said there, of putting the mask on, of performing under pressure, of just getting on with it, of just manning up, if you like, and getting through it, until it got to a point of really a burnout. So when I left Crystal Palace, I've described that as a major burnout that I had, where I just physically and mentally couldn't go back in for pre-season. The thought of going back in, June the 25th or whatever it was, and going all the way through again till the end of May, I just couldn't do it. I remember there was a moment when I was flying back from holiday with a family that summer, and whatever I was watching, it was just a moment of, I just can't go back in. I just cannot put myself through it for another season. I need to do a little bit of work on myself. I need to get well, really.
Yeah.
From a mental point of view, I need to just be present with the family. I was fed up of driving home or seeing the family, wanting to be the person that I wanted to be, but actually stepping foot in the door and being the opposite, being irritable, not present, snappy with the kids, short with the wife, distancing myself from family and friends, and kind of just drifting along, really.
Yeah.
And I was fed up of it. I've effectively fed up a bit, but obviously, and then the last few years with COVID and everything that's gone on, there was a period where everything was a little bit uncertain. Chris rung me out of the blue about going with him to Nottingham Forest. I was happily kind of just doing the Scotland role, which effectively was pretty much part-time. I just went for it. A little bit of the size of the club, a little bit of fear. I think I got a little bit scared after I left Crystal Palace. It was great for a few months, but it got to a period, as some find, where actually, where's the purpose? What am I doing myself? What can I do? I think I got a little bit frightened of maybe looking into that. So the phone rings and then you're back in. You're back on the treadmill and you're back at it for another 2-3 years?
2 years, yeah, it was, yeah. Would your teammates or would your colleagues, as you moved into management, have been aware that you had your struggles?
No chance. I think sort of a lot of people that sort of reached out to me after I shared it, and a lot of the people that I've worked with would be totally shocked.
Would they? Because even I was just thinking last night, we had Kenny Cunningham and Kev Kilbane on the show. Ireland, would they have known?
I'd caught up with Kenny a little bit, actually. A couple of rounds of golf, just as the lockdowns were easing, you could play a little bit of golf. So caught up with Kenny a couple of times. Kev, used to share with Kev a little bit, not to the extent of, what I sort of shared in the summer, but used to be in touch quite regularly with Kev and share a little bit with him.
And during your playing days as well, Stephen, or only after? No, okay.
No, that's it's still similar to that. I think the football world, I think I've sort of shared a lot more since I finished playing. I think when I was playing, I shared very little about what I'd been through. I think right at the back end, I had no problem with sharing that I used to see Steve Peters and a few of the struggles that I'd had, but no, it was kept well under wraps for fear of, again, maybe not getting that contract, maybe not getting in the team, especially when I was on a pay-as-you-play contract.
Yes.
I effectively had to get in the team, so had to do all that I could to get in the team, but there was that fear.
It's not even a nice thought to say it out loud, but the fear, I presume, is, well, I'll be looked at as somehow weak, and they might wonder, well, if the pressure comes on at a key point in the season, is his mental health going to hold up, and can we rely on him? All these, awful things to say. It's a terrible way to put it, but I suspect in that dog-eat-dog world, you came through that Millwall school of hard knocks. You get up, you get on with it. You're not going to volunteer that potential quote-unquote weakness.
Exactly. And that's probably why I felt a little bit freer when I went into coaching to share some of these sort of stories and my experiences. I think that was one of my strengths as a coach, was to talk to the players and have my one-on-ones with the players and share a little bit of my vulnerabilities. I think that used to bring me closer to the players. I think they felt that I was coming from a good place, but anyone looking at me and sort of listening to me sort of sharing some of this stuff and what I shared in the summer, I think some wouldn't believe it, because I was probably your typical almost solid pro.
Yeah.
Reliable pro, good around the dressing room, tough.